Fantastic. Just having a few more people join the meeting. I apologize for the noise. I think this will become a normal thing on our Zoom calls, I think. You've got background noise wherever we go. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to our virtual Small Animal Advisory Board. This is really the first time that we're using this format, and I just want everyone to feel very comfortable. I'm sure most of us have been on many virtual meetings throughout the year, and this one will be like that. I do expect to hear, background noise and dogs and kids, and it's not going to be perfect, but we want you to feel very comfortable in participating and sharing your thoughts. Before we get started, though, I want to start with kind of where this meeting comes from. Why are we doing this meeting? Why did we invite our customers to something like this type of forum? And it really starts out with our vision for Hallmark. And at the very top level, our vision is to improve the lives of animals and the people who care for them. And you guys are the people. So you're the ones who care for animals. You're the ones that we're focused on. And we just are just very excited to be able to bring all of you together. This is part of the Hallmark family. It's part of the Hallmark community. And this is one opportunity for us to do that. The other piece of this is, we launched something last year, Q Care. And Q Care for us was a way to communicate and the way to package all of the other things we do. I mean, front and center, obviously, we have our product and the MRI, and that's what you're most familiar with. But as part of the process of even thinking about including MRI in a practice, there are many pieces that go into that. And Hallmark wants to be there along that entire journey, that entire life cycle of the program. We're here next to you, with you, as part of that. So from the beginning, stages of thinking about it, planning for it, to the usability and improvability of the product, and continuing through its life cycle. So that's the difference we feel for Hallmark. This is all we do. This is what we focus on. There are obviously many companies out there that provide an MRI solution, but we're the only ones that provide this Q Care support. And the user meeting is just one piece of that, one bubble in everything that we do. So with that, again, I'm going to turn it over to Sean, who's going to give us really a kickstart to the meeting and introductions. Sean, you're on mute.
I am. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Can we put, do we have this in presentation mode, Lynn? The actual PowerPoint, or no?
I tested it this morning and it blew up my computer. So
let's not do that then. Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started with some introductions. We're not going to do anything terribly. We're not going to put people on the spot too much, but we do want to go around, introduce ourselves, tell everyone where you're from. If you're with Hallmark, how long you've been with Hallmark. If you're a customer, how long you've been a Hallmark customer. Just a little snippet on if you have experience with other systems, MRI systems, and then one fun fact about yourself. Just one, just a little snippet, just a little window into the zany person that you are. So we're going to go to if you want to go to the next slide there, Lynn, we're going to kick it off, and the Hallmark people will go first, because obviously we outnumber you folks by a fair amount. So I'll go first, and then we'll just go in order, starting the top left with Steve and just running down the list there. Simon's going to introduce himself, but then we have a little special introduction that Simon asked to be put into the presentation. He wanted a little extra time to talk a little bit more about himself. So we said, sure, Simon, whatever. So that's coming up shortly here. So following the format there, Sean Miller, I've been with Hallmark 6 years. I'm the North and South American sales director. I've been in animal health for 15 to 18 years, something like that. I live in Savannah, Georgia. One fun fact about myself, very, very awkward thing to consider, like, let's talk, talk about yourself. The only the thing that keeps popping in my head is I played football at Michigan a long time ago, and when we went to our first Rose Bowl, we were staying at the night before the game. We were staying at the Schwanky Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, and we have these full team meetings, and usually we have someone kind of inspirational come and talk to us and stuff. We had Muhammad Ali come and speak to us. And by that time, this is early 90s, he was pretty well advanced with Parkinson's. But he gave a great talk. But the thing that was really strange, he did this illusion for us. He went and stood in the corner and put his hands on the corners of the wall, and it appeared that he levitated. Like it, I mean, it was like Chris Angel, master illusionist. And a lot of the guys got down on their hands and knees and were looking, we were all blown away. So now a little fun fact about me, Muhammad Ali in LA. So there you go. Steve.
Thanks, Sean. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to follow the Muhammad Ali story, to be fair. But I'm Steve Roberts. I'm the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer at Hallmark. I've been with Hallmark since the beginning, pretty much, 18 years plus now. I've been working with MRI machines for nearly 30 years. I've worked on pretty much every type of MRI machine, all the big vendors. I worked on the world's first 3 Tesla and the world's first 4.7 Tesla in the early days of clinical imaging and stuff. So I've seen quite a lot. I've worked on very low field systems as well. And my fun fact is I was good friends with one of the astronauts that walked on the moon. And through him, I got to meet, I think, 24 of the Apollo astronauts and get to see 4 space shuttle launches.
Wow.
I keep in touch with those guys. I've had dinner with Buzz Aldrin 3 times now, I think. And so that's my passion, as well as MRI, is space, and particularly the early space history and those pioneering astronauts.
Awesome. All right, Lynn.
All right, I'll go next. I know I've met many of you, but I basically run the marketing function here at Hallmark, and I have a great team who all of them are on the call with us today. I couldn't do it without them. My background actually is I came from the human side of medical imaging. Spent over 20 years with GE Healthcare, Accuray on the radiation treatment side, and then also worked with a startup more recently on the portable or wireless ultrasound that now is becoming more and more prevalent in the veterinary space as well. So I came over about 20 months ago to Hallmark, and it's just a fascinating company, fascinating technology, and bringing this to the veterinary space. Very parallel, a lot of parallels to the human side. So it's been just fantastic. So I guess maybe I have a fun fact is, even though I'm maybe the chief marketing officer and people think of me as marketing, I actually started out in engineering. I was one of the few women in my classes at Marquette University. I started out, I was going to do biomed engineering actually, specifically, but there was an open house. And at that open house, they had mice and they were experimenting with mice, and they had, little tubes in their heads, and they were giving the mice some, I don't know, something, and they're running around. And I found myself starting to pass out when I was watching these mice run around with these tubes in their head. And I decided to switch my major. So anyway, I started on engineering, but I moved to industrial engineering, which is much more business oriented, process oriented, and stayed away from the hands-on clinical. But I've always had a passion for clinical. And in fact, sometimes kick myself for not becoming a physician or a PA or something like that. So I just play one on TV. But anyway, in the meantime, I'm very excited again to be a part of this meeting and to continue to meet more of our customers and as we grow this business and really increasing access to this technology. So I'll turn it over. I think Annie would be next.
Yep. Yep. Hi, I'm Annie Macon. I've met some of you before, some of you I haven't. I am UK Sales Director on the small animal side. dealing with the accounts that we have over on this side of the pond, and also with our equine customers around the world. Before I've been with Hallmark about the same amount of time as Lynn, actually. I think we joined pretty much 1 week after each other. Before that, I spent 10 years working for IMB Imaging. So that's a veterinary imaging company that deals with radiography and ultrasound. And before that, I was with Siemens working on their echocardiography and mammography side. So I've got quite a solid imaging background, but actually not specifically with MRI. So MRI is a new thing for me, and it's fascinating. It's amazing. But I have to say, I mean, I've been imaging and I've loved imaging for many, many years. So a fun fact about me, I am a freeman of the City of London, which gives me quite a few strange abilities. The most famous one is possibly that people believe that on certain days of the year I am entitled to drive sheep across London Bridge into the city. That's actually not quite true. The full law of that is that I can drive any animal I like into the City of London except a dragon. So don't ask me to take any dragons into the City of London because it's kind of illegal. I can't do it. Sean, you raised your hand.
I have questions. What's your title? What are you?
I'm a freeman of the City of London.
A freeman?
Yeah.
Is that something that you earned, a distinction that you earned, or was that something inherited?
Well, I'd love to say I earned it, but it is actually inherited. Frustratingly, my father bestowed it upon me at a rather strange ceremony. Well, strange. It was a ceremony that I had to go to in the city, and he then formally bestowed it upon me. But he did it after my daughter was born, and it means that I can't bestow it to my daughter. But I've subsequently had a son, so I can, in the fullness of time, bestow it to my son. So my daughter's rather frustrated that she won't be able to take her sheep across London Bridge, but my son will be able to. But he still won't be able to take dragons, so that's kind of okay.
Wow.
Wonderful. Good story. That is fun. That is a fun fact. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, excellent. Miss Holly.
Hi, everyone. Thanks very much, Sean. I'm Holly Johnson. I also work in the UK. I help look after the UK accounts, and similar to Annie, have worked in the imaging industry for a few years now. And I think probably my biggest confession I need to make to the team here is that I've come from the dark side. So I'm a vet from clinical practice who moved out of clinical practice, but maybe worse than that, I used to be a horse vet. So on a small animal user meeting, I do really feel like maybe I shouldn't be here. Anyway, in terms of imaging, I got into small animal ultrasound imaging primarily when I left clinical practice. And then about a year ago, had the opportunity to come to Hallmark, which was excellent. I'm very pleased to be here. In terms of fun facts, I'm not really sure I can beat Annie's with a dragon loaded car across a bridge into London, or non-dragon loading as it might be. But I did very randomly, when I was in practice, get the opportunity to do a post-mortem on a rhinoceros. So fun. I don't know if it's a fun fact. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Sure.
A macabre fact.
A macabre fact, yeah, but I think we're all a bit macabre in the vet industry. So
excellent. Miranda.
Hello, I'm Miranda Schroeder. I joined Hallmark at the end of summer last year. I came from pharmaceutical medical devices, so on the human side of things. I'm excited to be learning more and more about the veterinary space every day. Let's see, a fun fact. I was a collegiate cheerleader. That'll be my fun fact. I was also a soccer player, which people forget that I was a cheerleader. So just throw that out there. It looks like Jenny is going to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Jenny Weir. I'm the creative and brand manager for Hallmark. I've been with the company for 6 years now, so quite a long time. And a fun fact about me is that I grew up in West Africa, in Ghana, to be precise.
That is a fun fact.
Yep. There you go.
Interesting.
7 years I was out there.
Right. Okay.
Next up is Rach.
Hello, my name is Rachel Pryor. I'm marketing coordinator here at Hallmark, and I've been here for 2 years. You will probably know me from all the emails I send out to everyone. So if you've received an email, it's probably from me in the last 2 years. So I do apologize for all of those. I'm relatively new to the industry. I finished university 3 years ago, meddled around in a few little jobs and found my job here at Hallmark, which I absolutely love. I've been thinking all morning about what my fun fact would be and annoying everyone in the team, asking what they think I should say. The one I've come up with is a bit random, but according to the deeds of my family home that I'm in right now, we can't own or raise pigs. So I'm unable to own any pigs or raise pigs while I live here in my family home.
So why are they prejudiced against pigs?
No idea. When we moved in the house 15 years ago, and with signing the deed and everything, and yep, it explicitly says we cannot own or raise pigs.
Awesome.
I will leave it over to Simon to do a short introduction.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure how I compete with some of those fun facts, actually. It's quite incredible. Muhammad Ali, people on the moon. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Yeah, okay, I'm Simon Platt. So I know some of you on this call meeting today. I'm currently at the vet school, University of Georgia. I graduated from Edinburgh a long time ago. And I have worked in Canada, Florida, Animal Health Trust, Newmarket. It sounds like I can't keep a job, really. I have worked for Hallmark now for 12 days as a medical director here. So just slowly fitting in. And the most terrifying thing that has happened to me so far is being asked to speak about a fun fact. And so I could just get out of this and say that there aren't any, which is close to the truth, and wait till the introduction. Or I could say that I have a group of friends that I grew up with and have now known for over 40 years, who all left school when they were 16 and are all way more successful than me, who spent my whole life in education. One of them plays live guitar with the 3 degrees. One of them owns the license for all of the sports merchandise in America and Premier League stuff. So if you buy a teddy bear that has Atlanta Braves on it, he owns it. One of them is an actor who's on a lot of soap operas, TVs in the UK, and every time I turn Hulu on, I apparently see his face. And my brother-in-law won a national TV program and his art was displayed in the Tate. And they take all great pleasure in saying that I'm a doggy doctor. So that's it.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Isabel.
My name is Isabel. I've been with Hallmark for just about 7 years now. Everybody calls me Izzy. I also came from the human side. I started my career back in 1997. I majored myself in radiology and continued in the human field up until around 2006. I had the opportunity to scan for animal neurologist back in 2006, which at that point is where my entire career went off into the veterinary world. And I've been here ever since. I've worked on Siemens primarily. I also have had the opportunity to work on GE's, Philips, Marconi's, brief interaction with Toyotas. I've been around a couple of times, and Hallmark is now my main concentration. Fun fact about me, well, I just had one simple fact, but now I feel like I have to up the ante because of everybody's interaction with popular people. So what people are always surprised at is that every single time we go to a bar, I don't often pay for drinks because I can actually tie a knot on a cherry stem with my tongue. So anytime we have bets or anything, I always tend to win them because that's a little secret that I have, that you make a bet and the other person always buys the drinks. So that's the fun fact about me that nobody knows about. I haven't had to perfect that skill at Hallmark yet. And as far as popular people, my best friend married a player from the Boston Bruins. So I grew up attending all the hockey games that were stationed in Boston, met a lot of hockey players, which to me, I'm not a hockey fan, so it wasn't a big deal. My husband was very happy when he got to attend his favorite hockey team because they were playing against my friend's husband's team. So again, I spent a lot of time with the husbands, with the wives, and in the back room of the hockey place. That's about it.
Excellent.
On to Kelly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly. I'm in the training support. I've been with Hallmark a little over a year now. I have been a certified veterinary technician for over 20 years. I've worked with Siemens before Hallmark MRI. Fun facts about me, not too many people know, I have been on television 3 different times. The first time I was in 6th grade, I was interviewed by Jane Corley on the Good Morning American show. And the second time I actually made a commercial when I was a senior in high school for Providence College basketball. And the third time I actually submitted a videotape back in the day to the Maury Povich show, and Talk Soup actually viewed the video and talked about it. So yeah, I've been on TV for a couple times.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. Excellent. Dr. Mosine, Kelly.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
We can. How are you?
I'm good, just running MRI right now. So you probably hear him in the background. I am Kelly Mosine. I am a neurologist at IndyVet Emergency and Specialty Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been here for 2.5 years with my Hallmark Pet Vet Magnet. I was trained in my residency on an SOAT low field magnet. So this is my first experience with a high field magnet. And for interesting facts about me, I love craft, and my most recent obsession in the craft world is I've become a hobby miniaturist. So I build little tiny houses and apartments and things.
Really?
I do. So that's
we need to see a picture example at some point.
Okay, I could show you guys.
I saw one. It was awesome.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I enjoy it. There's a lot of cursing that happens when I do them, but they turn out really nice. So.
Do you drink while you do that?
No, because that would end horribly.
Awesome. Awesome. Very good. Very good. Thanks for joining us, Kelly. Hey, Amanda.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
So
morning.
my name is Amanda Full. I am the neurologist with Premier Veterinary Group in Chicago, or Ethos Veterinary Health is our parent company. And I have been with Premier now for 6 years. And I have worked on, I've had my Hallmark for October will be 3 years. And I've worked on Toshiba's, SAOTs as well in the low field market, and then a Siemens. My interesting or funny fact about myself, and I think Sean's probably the only one that knows this about me, it's slightly embarrassing, but it's very random, is that when I was in high school, I was involved in the Miss America pageant system. And I actually got all of my college and undergraduate paid for through scholarships through the Miss America pageant. So I was like a pageantry girl. It's very embarrassing as an adult to tell people that, but it was very beneficial for my undergraduate career to get a lot of scholarships for that. So very, very weird and random.
I did not know that.
Oh, I thought that I had told you that years ago. Yeah.
It's if you did, I'm a fleeting memory. That's good. That's
very
good.
resourceful. Right.
That's right. And look at you in a different way now. All right, Dana.
Yeah, can Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm Dana. I am here in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Veterinary Specialty Center. I've been working with the Hallmark machine, I think, for about 5 or 6 years now. And other machines that I've worked with in the past, so we had a Siemens during my residency. At my first job location, we had a GE, and have been most happy with the Hallmark. Fun fact about me, I guess for the first half of my life, I was a figure skater, specifically in precision skating, which is the group sport, which took me all over the United States, into Canada, and even Italy for competitions.
Really? Awesome. Very cool. You grew up in the Dakotas, right?
Yes, I'm from North Dakota.
A lot of ice up there.
Yeah. Yes. Very cold. Hence the reason of moving to Las Vegas.
Smart gal. Yeah. Excellent. Well, welcome. All right, Dr. Massicott.
Hi, Christian. So can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. So I'm a neurologist at Veterinary Care and Specialty Group in Chattanooga. I just moved there in June when they opened a brand new clinic. So I have been there for almost a year now, using that MRI. I've been a neurologist forever. So I've been to Philadelphia, New Jersey, Minnesota, and now here. It's a fun fact from me. I'm like Simon, I'm not really fun. So I don't feel like I have a fun fact, but I guess we can say that I ride horses. I really do. And a crazy one over fences. We won 4th place in 2019 with one of my girl across the United States. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Awesome.
I also play the piano. I have a 3rd degree black belt, which has nothing to do with vet medicine, but is a lot of fun. So that's it about me.
That is surprising.
We won't mess with you.
Yeah, Dr. Massicott Christian is a sleight of build person, and I'm a big tall fat guy, so I won't mess with you. That's good to know.
We always say the taller the better for us.
I bet. My wife will tell you I'm kind of a weenie. So anyway, well, welcome. Dr. Steele, were you able to join us? Don't know if she chimed.
Somebody who hasn't got a name. Not sure if that's
maybe she might not have been able to join us. There was a random number that dialed in, and I didn't know.
Was that her?
Hello.
Hey, Dr. Steele.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm driving in like the middle of nowhere, Oregon, right now. So
welcome.
Thank you. I am a small animal neurologist at Columbia River in Vancouver, Washington. I've been working there for about 2 months, so that's the amount of time I've been with Hallmark. Previously with GE and Siemens Magnet, and I am driving far away to see my horse, who is very naughty and just got sent to the cowboy. And my fun factor, just something I like, is I am obsessed with narwhals. I think they look like mythical creatures, and as soon as we're allowed to travel, I'm planning a trip to go see them.
Amazing.
That's good. Fun fact. Excellent. Welcome. Cody, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, Cody.
How are you doing?
Well, how are you?
Good. I can do a video because I'm probably the one of the few that's unemployed, just sitting at home.
Not for long though.
So I'm a neurologist here in Tucson, Arizona. This is what it looks like if anybody wants to come for nice weather. We got a practice opening in 2.5 weeks. Veterinary specialty practice, Tucson veterinary specialists. Yeah, as soon as you turn that MRI on, I can start. So we've got a new install going in. I've got some background in low field MRI. I've been all around the veterinary industry. I see a lot of horsey people, which is great. I was a large animal internist for a bit of time and then transitioned to neurology. So I don't know about fun facts for me. A good day for me is riding the trail with a beer in my hand. I don't do any fancy horse work, but that's about what I do. So
bicycles? Like bikes?
No, on a horse. On a horse.
On a horse.
On a
With
horse
a beer in your hand.
doesn't even have to walk straight. Just something going down the trail.
Much better.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Dr. Fallon. So Dr. Fallon, just a little introduction here. Dr. Fallon is coming to us from the Ethos San Diego practice and is going to be the neurologist at Ethos Orland Park. She's very, very kind and generous to join us. We're still in the planning stages of her practice, of her MRI suite. So we certainly wanted to make every effort to include you because again, as Lynn mentioned, you're going to be part of this community and we wanted to kind of introduce you to it. So welcome, Dr. Fallon. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I'm technically unemployed, but hopefully we'll be signing my paperwork and we can get everything started in Orland Park shortly. But residing in San Diego still, and this is where I'll be for the next few months while I study for the board's exam. I have worked on all sorts of MRIs coming from multiple universities where interestingly, it seemed like every university I went to was either trading out their MRI or the Ethos here is now trading out their MRI. So Siemens, trailers, you name it, I've seen it, which is great, but I'm excited at the prospect of being a part of the team. I've seen a couple of your machines and went in, hung out with Amanda a couple weeks ago and saw her setup and everything. So I'm excited about that. Fun fact about me, when I was in college, I played on the women's rugby team and I played a prop. So I was a tight head prop and I played number 8. And of course I got injured. And needed to find an orthopedic surgeon. And I happened to fall into the hands of Eric Hayden, whose name might be familiar if you're my generation or older and American, because he was a US Olympic speed skater. And he is I think the winningest athlete at any single Olympic Games as far as medal counts go. And he was perfectly wonderful and said, I'm not sure you'll ever be able to run again on that ankle, but did such a good job that it's totally fun.
Wow.
And I could play rugby again, but my family chooses to not let me.
I see. Well, our CEO is a huge rugby fan, Dr. Joss Bilgrave. He's on the call today, but should you ever meet him, you'll have something in common. You can give him some thoughts on English rugby. The Premier League. So excellent. Well, welcome, Dr. Fallon. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. So that took longer than 5 minutes. We probably undershot that a little bit, but we're going to move on next. Here's the good news. When we get to the product feedback session, we've allowed 60 minutes for that, but sorry, I'm next to an Army air base. But we're calling a feedback speed session. It's like speed dating. We're just gonna, go through it real fast, get some information out there. We're gonna do a lot of listening, so hopefully we'll be able to pick up some time when we get to that section. But before we give a deeper introduction to Simon and his role with Hallmark, I wanted to we wanted to briefly touch on the guidelines for this meeting. And it's all there on the slide. This meeting is intended for you. 2 years ago, we did a meeting in San Diego where we flew everybody in. We had a great time of sharing information, getting to know each other, et cetera. And the goal is to do that again, hopefully in a more quote unquote normal world at the end of the year here in Savannah, where I live right now. But this meeting is for you. So, we wanted to, as Lynn mentioned, as a part of Q-Care, we wanted to develop this real deep sense of community. And that's one of the things that's one of many things that Simon's going to begin to help us with, is developing this deep clinical camaraderie and community amongst all our Hallmark clinicians. So just keep that in mind, that this is your meeting. And one of the things that we wanted to the first meeting we did in San Diego, it was more about sharing cases and best practices. This meeting is geared a little bit more towards listening to your feedback about where we're at and where you think it is that we need to go. And we're looking for honest and constructive input. We want to keep it high level, and we're going to listen to your feedback, do a lot more listening than talking. And the hope is that, by the end of this meeting, we're going to get a list of we're going to get some a list of feedback points, data points that Steve and his research and development team could use to potentially evolve the product, make improvements where we can, et cetera. The meeting is being recorded. It's only going to be shared with Hallmark employees and customers. It's not going on social media. It's nothing like that. What we'll do is we'll take that recording and we'll provide a link to everyone at the end of it, so you don't have to. I know that we've got people driving to see their naughty horses. We have folks tending to little people, toddlers. So by recording it, this will allow you guys to review the pertinent points and fast forward to pertinent points, so you don't have to take notes, etc. But if you do have a pen and paper handy, as we go through this meeting, it might be helpful to just drop down a couple of thoughts about what about this meeting worked for you and what didn't, because we will be sending out a survey, a short one, like 10 questions, nothing too deep, to give us some qualitative feedback, so that we can make the meeting even better when we meet again in July. So if we don't have any questions or concerns, we're going to roll on to Lynn, and Lynn's going to introduce Simon in a bit more detail.
Yeah, it's my honor, actually, and pleasure to more formally introduce you to Simon. You heard a little bit about his formal background. You've heard about where he went to school and where he presently is. But what you might not know is there's a lot more to Simon. So I thought we'd share a few pictures. They say pictures share 1,000 words, or say 1,000 words, worth 1,000 words. So Simon, would love to have you comment on some of your exciting photos here and give a little insight into who you are beyond just the neurologist that we know.
Sure, thank you. Well, one of my great passions, obsessions, and I am never away from internet phone alerts, is Liverpool Football Club, real football. Sorry, Sean, but this is real football. I went home about 2 years ago and got to tour around the museum when they'd just won the European, the Super Cup, and the World Club Cup, and I got to pose there. And this is a cardboard cutout of their manager, but I put it on social media and claimed actually that I'd spent the afternoon with him, which some people actually believed. But it's a great passion of mine. I actually got to I try to see them every time I go back to the UK. They toured America a couple of years ago, and this is me when they played in Charlotte and they lost 3-1, but it was just an exhibition, so that was fine. And this is me prom shopping for one of my daughters. We were just trying out classes. I try my best to try to embarrass them on as many occasions as possible, be the typical embarrassing dad. This is when I was actually got an opportunity twice to go out and teach in Thailand, and we went to an elephant rescue center. It was kind of a humbling, quite amazing experience. So one of my most favorite trips is I took my mum and dad out to South Africa for their anniversary, and we went on a safari. And getting to see these guys live was just it was incredible, a life-changing experience, as has this been, which is one of my sideline hobbies, and I'm not a black belt yet, but this is me when I just got my green belt. I'm now a blue stripe on green belt, and most of the time I spend on the floor getting my ass kicked by 7-year-olds, because that's what the class seems to be full of. And there's this old guy that comes in and tries to learn some of the moves, and it was going well until COVID, and then they decided obviously you can't be doing any interpersonal training, so they decided to move it to Zoom. Great advantage, don't get my ass kicked by a 7-year-old, but it's the weirdest thing ever. So that has taken a stall right now, so I remain at blue stripe on green. And it's a martial art called Kukido, which is a South Korean martial art. It's a kind of cross between Taekwondo and Jiu-Jitsu. And it's the one time that I just can forget all of the stuff. Besides Liverpool, I won't be forgetting that, but everything else out of my head just goes at that time.
Yeah, classic underachiever. Wow, and it's really important to know what he doesn't like, right? So now we know what he likes, and now what he doesn't like. He doesn't like snakes. So when we were speaking with Simon as he was onboarding, he mentioned that some of his students like to throw rubber snakes at him. And those students, of course, get Fs, right? You give them poor grades because of it. But anyway.
Absolutely. There's always retribution. Yeah, no, I'm terrified of snakes. And that does get around quickly. So whenever there is one in the exotics group hospital, then they tend to ask me to come down to have a look at it, whether there's anything wrong with it or not, and I wouldn't know anyway, but they just want to see me have terror across my eyes. So yeah, no, I'm petrified. And one day, this might be a fun fact, I don't know, but it wasn't for me. One day last year, I had to call my family in the house, and I said, I can't move. I need you to come and help me. And they wondered what was going on. And I was trapped in the garage because there was a black snake across the sort of doorway. It just sat there, and I couldn't get out. So I had to actually call a family to open the door from the other side and move the snake away, because I was petrified. And all I hear is, oh, it's just a black snake. Yeah, no, in Britain, we don't have really any snakes. Okay, so I don't care what color it is. It's bad news.
You know your weakness.
Yeah.
It's a very rational, rational fear. I'm with you on that. That's reasonable.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So in case you're wondering where in the world Simon lives, as he mentioned earlier, University of Georgia, and that happens to be up here in Athens, outside of Atlanta, and kind of in between where Sean and I live. So Sean's in Savannah, I'm up here in Greenville, South Carolina. So that's where you are, the other part of your life. So I guess just to clarify what his role is at Hallmark, he works with us part-time as a small animal medical director, exclusively focused on our small animal business, driving the clinical program and bringing back insights from, the broader community, but including yourselves. Really, our goal is for him to impact all aspects, as we mentioned, of our product, customer experience in our small animal space. And, since I'm now living in South Carolina, I can use the phrase all y'all, but he's planning on working with all y'all on image quality and workflow. So please embrace that and use him as, you know, kind of your clinical partner in the business here to bring back ideas to us. And, you know, our ultimate goal, as I mentioned earlier, is really to increase access to this technology so that more clinicians and more animals in their care have the ability to be diagnosed and treated. And that's really, fits back into the mission that I mentioned earlier today. So are there any questions on his role? Okay, it's the first time we've had a medical director at Hallmark. So, you know, we're going to learn as we go a little bit. It'll probably evolve. So, you know, help us with that. Help us with where he can help you in the business, with your business. So with that, we're going to turn it over to Steve Roberts, who's going to get a little bit more clinical now that we've gotten all the introductions and you know everybody, at least somewhat. So Steve, we're going to have you go ahead and talk about image intensity optimization.
Thanks, Lynn. Yeah. So I'll just give a little bit of overview. This is a new piece of software that we're still in the process of optimizing. We developed it at the end of last year. And essentially what it is that in MRI machines, you have a large RF coil inside the magnet, which is the body coil, which is built into the magnet. And that has a very good uniformity, but is not very sensitive. Coils get, the smaller the coil is, the more sensitive they are. So that's why we have phased array coils. And the phased array coils, like the head coil and the V-shaped spine coil, are actually an array of multiple coils. So the V-shaped spine coil is actually 8 elements combined together, and each element is very sensitive, but because they're small coiled, they have lower uniformity. And so what you can do with clever software is you can map the anatomy of the patient using the large coil and the smaller phased array coils, and then apply the uniformity of the large coil onto the high sensitivity of the smaller phased array coils. This is what we're calling image intensity optimization. Now, yeah, other companies like GE Siemens do have similar things, and it's a good technique because, as we know, phased array coils produce really nice images, but sometimes the uniformity can be improved with this sort of technique. So we go to the next slide. So just a little bit of the background of how it actually works on the software currently. So we upgraded all of the sites to 7.2 release a while ago. That actually has this feature embedded within it, although for most sites it's currently disabled because we're still optimizing it. So the one thing we have to still do, which is kind of a clinical process of iterative process of looking at images and optimizing parameters, and it's different parameters for each coil. But effectively, on the clinical software, there's an options tab. I'm not sure how many of you use the software regularly, but we'll use the options tab. It's actually a user specific option. So if you select an option, that's for your particular user, which is why we have that user login for every scan we run on the system. At the bottom of that list now, there's 4 new options related to this pathing, what we call part of the phased array, which is the intensity correction. We have the use par, actually is the main one, which actually uses it for the images. The 2 below that actually are the calibration. So the way it works is it runs 2 scans, one with the body coil and then one with the phased array coil. And each scan takes about 35 seconds. It's a low resolution scan, but it's quite a lot of slices. It's like 45 slices or thereabouts, trying to cover the whole anatomy. And so the 2 lower options enable you to run the calibrations. The first one, auto par, runs the calibration at the beginning of a study. If you use pilot par, then it will actually run a calibration after every time you run a pilot scan. So if you have to reposition the patient mid-study, then it will run a second set of calibration scans. So we kind of recommend if you're going to run calibrations, you should enable both of those features. And at the moment, the auto par, which is the master one, we've kind of, for now, we've recommend leaving it disabled probably while we're still optimizing it. Because what we can do is if you run the calibration scans, we can log into systems out of hours and maybe look at some of the resulting images and change some of the parameters, optimize some of the parameters. But certainly in the near future, we'd like to be able to run this feature for all the sites, so we can make the most of this feature. I've got a couple of example images actually. This is a disturbed dorsal image. This is actually the standard image. If we flip to the other one, this is without the correction. If you flip to it now, the correction, you can see it just tidies up the image, particularly if you just point kind of just 2/3 up the middle of the chest on the top image there. Sorry, not this one. Sorry, the one. Just if you go back to the first one, sorry. Yeah, there's actually an artifact there. It's actually a wraparound artifact. So it's a bit of anatomy from outside of the field of view, which is flipped into the image. If you look at the second, and then we flip back to the corrected image, that disappears. So another advantage of the intensity correction is not only does it smooth out the images and get rid of some of the background noise, it actually really significantly helps with wraparound artifacts. And actually helps with breathing artifacts as well. So if we go to the next slide, we see a nice spine scan here, but it's got quite a lot of breathing artifact. I've actually windowed it just to enhance that. This is breathing and motion artifact from the body. You can see in the phasing code direction. But if we go to the corrected image there, you can see how incredibly well it tidies up the breathing motion. A lot of that motion is coming from maybe outside the field of view, plus the correction mechanism does help reduce those artifacts. So when we get the parameters right, this really shows you the benefits of this technique. But we are aware that we still need to optimize them for some of the coils. But it's certainly, I think, working together. I think this is one of those things where working together with sites, we can really optimize the system further. And this is where getting feedback and clinical data is really helpful. The next slide is just talking a bit about actually, and this is a real lead into this meeting, is that we're just in the process of working on the next release, which is quite a big release. We've moved up to version 8 now. 8.0 is what we're working on. It actually moves to Windows 10 and it has quite a different look and feel about it. So this is just a screenshot showing what it's going to look like. That scan window can be docked to the bottom as it's shown there. It's just you can be separated or docked to the bottom, but we've kind of changed the look and feel, but we're really also looking to add functionality. And we've had some very good feedback from the meeting in San Diego, and we've already implemented some of those recommendations into this version of the software. And I think from this meeting, there may be some things that come out of this meeting which we can also integrate into this version of software. And we're looking to upgrade all the sites later this year. Haven't got an exact timescale yet because it depends on the number of features we want to add to it. But yeah, we're very keen to get the feedback and try and improve and enhance the software as you want it to be, as you want to see it, and so we can really push the product forward. So yeah, any questions really? We'll take them later as well.
Yeah. Yep. Anyone have any questions on the image intensity corrections?
No, looks good. Be interesting to start to apply.
Anxious to play with it, yeah.
And so we're just very keen to work with sites on trying to optimize the parameters. I've been running a few tests out of hours, and we're just optimizing those parameters for different coils.
Good. Okay.
More to
Thank you,
come.
Steve. That's good. That's exciting. Looking forward to getting it optimized for sure. Excellent.
So now I think we're going to move on to the feedback session, the speed session, as we mentioned. And Isabel's going to walk us through this a little bit and go through the process.
Okay, so each of you will be asked to comment on all aspects of the product. If you have any feedback at all on the hardware, software, training, support, or any other aspect, please let us know. We'll go site by site and person by person, and feel free to list any comments or any suggestions that you may have. Constructive feedback only. Hallmark team will capture notes and we'll ask for clarification, and we will look into common themes and definitely prioritize based on what impacts you most, and we will definitely get back to you.
Yeah, that's a good point. So again, this session is just meant to capture information. We're not going to, wade into too many details about addressing these things. We're just going to take notes and listen more than anything. And we might seek to clarify offline after the meeting, perhaps, as we develop our list and Steve and his team turn their attention to the list. So, and one other thing, of course, I think we have Cody and Dr. Fallon on this list. Of course, you're not we're not going to ask you to comment because you don't know a thing about our system. So what we're going to focus on, obviously our current customers and perhaps Dr. Steele with her limited knowledge, experience with the Hallmark system might not have to offer, but maybe I'm wrong on that. So anyway, so take it away there, Izzy.
Okay, so we can start with round one. We'll start with the first generation. If Kelly Mosine, would you like to start?
Sure. Can you guys hear me? Because I switched
I can.
microphones.
Sounds good. Yep.
All right. Hardware, really, no concerns that I have right now. It's been working well. We still have the grinding going on in the cold head, but it's still trucking along. We call it our Kelly because there's nothing wrong with a little bump and grind. So it makes it pretty well. Haven't had any issues lately. It's been going really well. Software also going well. I think the biggest thing is once we get the ability to push those images real time as the scans are happening, that's going to be a lot. I'm currently set up in the back of my MRI room watching scans because I can't push them yet. So really pushing them and getting them over to our DICOM servers and Keystone is going to be a big thing to allow me to have a little more freedom when I'm at work. Training. Go ahead.
I would like to talk to you after this meeting because I might be able to help with your push.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Training has been going great. We just had a training session in January that went really awesome. Because of COVID, we had to cancel a training session this past spring, and we kind of did some training with our newest technician during that time. It was kind of a trial by fire because my head tech was on maternity leave, so we were kind of doing what we had to. It is one that I think that really helped in the ease of training. I know Izzy felt that was very helpful for her to have a little bit of experience before the training. And I think that if we're not, with COVID continuing, and if we're not able to get training all the time, to start doing that, I think was really helpful for both Izzy as well as my technicians. And I got nothing.
Okay. Great. Okay, we'll move on to Amanda.
Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to thank Kelly. You and Dr. Spicer did a fantastic job on the DVM 360 webinar. That's in the CE portion of DVM 360. So just wanted to thank you again for doing that. And we've had quite a bit of, I don't know what the final number is, but I think over 100 people at least view that session either live or recorded. So I think in the spirit of continuing to educate the market and grow the awareness of the availability of this technology, I think things like that are really great. So.
Well, thank you. It went great, Lynn, and we really appreciate that opportunity as well. I thought it went really, really well as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Kelly, just to make sure, so in terms of sequences, etc., there's nothing. No feedback on sequences of note that you'd like to see tweaked, or
I really haven't had any issues with sequences. We have a weird thing that happens with our brain T1 sagittals, and we're still seeing those artifacts. They've been there since the beginning, since I've had the magnet, but I can read through them and really not have any issue with them. So it's one that I'm very happy with the sequences. I actually got told by a neurologist in academia that my images are way better than his, and he let me know that. So he's getting his magnet upgraded recently, and he said, I hope to have images as good as you.
Wow.
Excellent.
So that's always good to hear.
Good. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
Isabel.
Okay, next up is Amanda Full.
Alrighty, so from a hardware perspective, I just did this exercise with Sean not too long ago, so it's probably pretty similar. But hardware perspective, so yeah, our cold head needs to be replaced as well. It also is making the lovely sound. So, but I think that's on Kevin's radar to try to get done sometime this summer. we had our oxygen sensor replaced because it went to the active suctioning versus the battery operated one. And I'm not sure if it's just our site or if it's all of the sites and just how it's installed, but it reverberates inside the wall and creates this very like low grade humming sound throughout the whole room. And at first I didn't mind it, but it's actually bothered my tech's migraines quite a bit. So that's something that maybe trying to find a different, I don't know if it's like our install too. That's it.
So
for
we have that
hardware.
as well. We have that reverberation in the wall as well with our oxygen sensor.
Yeah, at first, like I said, when you're scanning, you don't hear it, but when you're just sitting in the room not scanning, it's a very low, deep reverberation sound from the wall. So maybe some improvement on future installs for those then. That's it for hardware. For software, I think a lot of this will come with the Windows 10 upgrade, is what I kind of understand, but our software freezes a lot. And you have to do the like Alt Tab to get it to unfreeze until you find whatever is making it get stuck, whatever part of the software is. So I find myself doing that on like a every other day basis. So that, and then just getting the reference lines in the new install or in the new software. I have the auto push.
Amanda?
Yeah.
So sorry. For the benefit of maybe some like Cody and Dr. Fallon, could you speak to what you mean by reference line so that they can,
Yeah. So the reference lines, the way that you pull it up on the software system right now is you can pull up your pilot and you can pull up like your SAG T2 or your transverses or something, but your reference lines or the section of your, on the left-hand side of the screen on your section of the references, they're very, very, very small pictures, like 2x2s or something. So it's very hard to have a nice reference line. Like you can't pull up a SAG T2 and a transverse T2 big screened with a reference line and compare it so you can kind of see like where you're at to go cut, for example. So I send it to my PACS and then I use my PACS system for that. But that's the reference pilot or kind of having a reference line comparison would be ideal.
And to clarify, you say you do send it to your PACS to do the full a bigger reference line, but the benefit of having it in the image acquisition, how would you characterize that? What's the value of that and having it in the acquisition software too?
Seeing it in real time, so I don't have to find another computer somewhere in the hospital to go look at it.
I gotcha. Okay, that's helpful. Good, yeah. Very good.
And up until I just got this auto send set up, I couldn't do those reference lines until the entire study was completed and it was sent to PACS because I couldn't send series by series. You could only send the whole scan to PACS. So up until a few months ago when it was set up. Now that it's set up like that in PACS, I can send series to each series or scan through and do that in my PACS system. The one thing with my auto send that's set up to PACS is it's set to auto send as soon as the scan is done. And what I have found, even since we last chatted, Sean, is that I like how it's set up like that. I almost wish there might be a little bit of a delay, like a 5 or 10 second delay before it sends to let me, if I'm sitting there, just let me look at it right away on the screen in case it's blurry or the patient's moved or something. That way it doesn't go to my PACS and I have to go back and delete that from the PACS system. But the one thing I do notice is that when it auto sends, and it's also trying to start the next scan at the exact same time, I think that might be one of the reasons why because it gets really angry, the software does, and I have to like not touch it until like I wait to like view the next, if I want to pull up the next scan to view it, if I have to wait till it auto sends and goes through all of that before. So I think a little bit of a delay might be nice, but that's a personal preference.
That's I just want to put a bit more color on that because that is an interesting perspective. When Steve and his team developed that enhancement, we were really concerned about the speed at which we could get the series pushed out to the PACS. Initially, I think you were an overachiever and you were like looking to pop up in those images too quick and it was throw up an error message. And now you kind of settled into a nice flow about it. But we were so focused on the speed that we didn't even think about the idea of having this delay, as you mentioned, to give you the opportunity to delete a study before it becomes part of the permanent record. And so, just again, we won't address it here, but Steve, maybe just thinking out loud, maybe there's a way to put in some kind of a delay in the settings or something and make it user definable, because there'll be some people who want that speed because they're in surgery, as an example, and want that immediate feedback, while there'll be others who are willing to take a delay of some kind so that they can get a really good, the permanent record is just the way they want it. So just something maybe to explore, as with the R&D team maybe.
Okay,
I think that's all I have. Yep.
excellent. Okay, thank you very much for all of that information. And now we'll move on to Dana Gietzen.
I would say for the hardware issues, I think we're still having issues with our table locking system. It's been attempted to be fixed a couple of times, but unless it's in like one specific kind of straight up locking position, the table will move when we're moving patients. So it's not even in like the lock position. We have to like fidget with it to make sure it doesn't move, and it still will kind of fall to the side, and the table just doesn't lock. I agree with the new O2 sensor. Like I didn't really hear it at first, but my technicians can hear that humming noise. So I would say that we did notice that as well. I think that's really only the major things with the hardware. In regards to software, I don't really have any issues with the imaging sequences. I think sometimes we don't get great diffusion weighted, but I think I had that issue with any kind of machine that I've used in the past. Sometimes when we pull over different sequences, so they're not like in the set protocol. I guess the last one that we noticed this week, we pulled over a T1 pre and post sequence, and they didn't match up in image quality. So I don't know if that's just something that we did or if it was something that we pulled over, but I could not get the image quality to match in the post contrast, and we just did kind of a copy of sequence, so we didn't really fidget with it at all. Other than that, I think everything's been good.
Okay.
And for the other, for like support, I don't know if we're just a little different because we work so much on the weekends. So someone isn't always available, but I feel like we'll call and maybe like 2 hours later or 3 hours later, we end up getting someone who, randomly looked at messages. So I don't think that's like a major issue. It may just delay imaging for a little while, but I really haven't seen that as a big problem.
And that's only on the weekends?
Yeah.
So Dana, when do you typically work on the weekends? Do you have a set schedule, or is it more emergency patients?
We are a 7-day practice.
Yeah.
Neurology. So like the neurology department is open Sunday through Wednesday right now. But then surgery is a 7-day practice. And then we're getting a second neurologist in the summer. So neurology will be a 7-day service.
You've hired somebody?
We did.
Hey.
Yeah, very excited.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big deal. Good.
Yeah, it'll be very helpful.
Are you allowed to share that, or is it?
Yep. Her name is Dr. Francesca Fitz. She's coming from a practice out in Florida.
Dr. Fitz. Okay, wonderful.
Yep.
Again, just a little bit of color on your comment about support. We're exploring that. That's something that's under active investigation because contractually, we provide support to all of our sites Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's a couple of practices that are on a different setup, and we're looking at possibly harmonizing our service level supports, so that everyone is on a more comprehensive, same plan. So it probably it doesn't surprise me that you're getting a call 2 or 3 hours later, and as you mentioned, someone just happens to check messages, because technically we're not really monitoring it on the weekends.
Yeah, and that's what I figured. But I mean, it really hasn't hindered us in any way. So I feel like it's still way more support than what I have received in the past with human machines, where we're having to wait, 48 hours before we hear back. So it's still a step up, I would say.
I see. That's great feedback. There's a session that we're going to get to a little after the break, that we're going to explore that in a little bit greater detail. So that's good feedback.
Thank you very much. Any other things that anybody that has the first generation system would like to add? No? Okay, so we're moving on to the second generation system. So we'll start off with Chattanooga and Dr. Christiane Mascal.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. So the hardware, I have had a little bit of problems with actually I'm going to talk first about the coils. So we have a small, medium, and large coil that we are using. The small coils have been giving very noisy images so far anyway. A bit grainy, so we have not been able to use that coil very much. So we end up scanning our cats or small dogs, either with the medium coil, which also is too big and gives too much room, or with the spine coil, which I have used a lot because of that. I'm not quite sure what is up with that. We don't use it properly. Izzy had come. You have seen that as well when you were here. I'm just not quite sure what this is about. The medium coil give pretty good images. The large coil, it's still rare that we use it because it is really large. It does accommodate real big dog, so we have not used this one all that much. Spine coil is giving also very good images, so we've been using mainly the medium coil and the spine coil for most of everything. What I'm surprised about, and I work at a lot of different places, so I've seen again a whole lot of different MRI setting and this and that, and yes, truck and inside stamens and all sort of things. What we usually have as images, usually T1 images are usually the best image that give us the most quality. But with the Hallmark, it's actually the T2 in which we have the best image quality, and the T1 sometimes we lose the image quality and the image is a little bit more grainy, and you can see that mainly with all the coils, but of course the small coils being the worst of all of them. So again, I'm not quite sure how we can improve the quality of images on T1 weighted image, and it's the same that you give. It's not like it is different with contrast or without contrast. The T1 weighted image are more grainy than the T2 weighted image. So that would be nice if we could get the images to be a little bit more crisp on T2, since we usually use this one for really structural detail, and usually we use T2 for fluid and things like that. So there's that for the hardware. The rest we received, thank you, Izzy, we have received, and it was a surprise Thursday, we opened a box which had nothing on it, and we found our new spine coil that was all repaired. So
Wonderful.
of course we had MRI that day. We tried it, so we're really, really happy with it.
Excellent.
Thank you. So that was it. Yeah, that was it for the coil. Oh, thank you. As far as the machine itself, we really haven't had any problem with it. It's brand new, so it's brand spanking new. It doesn't like thunderstorm, but nobody does. The software, I'm a little bit like, I don't know who made that comment, but I made that comment also before to Sean, is I really can't, when I look at the image, whatever image I'm scanning is the one I look at. I cannot really have a good reference because, again, I'm old and those things are size stamps and I really can't tell anything. Where am I? And that's bothersome when you cut it back and you really are trying to see where to try to count. And you can't see it on the little stamp on the left side. That's the reference point, the line, as you were talking about before. That is bothering me. I don't know how much it would take for you all to get something a bit bigger for our older eyes here, that we could see where we are on more like two different plane of view. What I do now is I just send the images. We have e-film. I spoil rotten, so we have e-film. I look at it there. That solved the problem. But sometimes I'm in surgery, and they ask me to make the call, and I can't pull the images. I'm sterile, and that would be nice to be able to say, okay, well, scan more at L3, L4, let's say, and because I can't count, but I can't do that right now. So that's about it for the software. We had some glitch, but it was fixed. I don't know what you did over there on the other side, but the images, that was getting dark every 5 seconds. At some point we had some issue with that. That has been completely resolved. We're losing our images for a black screen every 5-10 minutes, but that has been resolved, so it's not doing that anymore, so we're good and happy with that. The training has been fabulous. The support has been fabulous. I had something from my technician. She wanted to tell you that it would be nice to have, sometimes she has tried to have support on holidays days, and there was nobody on the other side. So she said, could you please put someone on holidays? She had on Martin Luther King Day an issue, and she really could not reach anyone. So, but other than that, everything has been super. As far as training, you're all always there answering our question. Megan, love you, Izzy. When you're not
Thank
there,
you
it's
so
like,
much.
oh God. And I don't have anything else, I guess. I'm not quite sure what other would include. So
yeah, I would just also like to thank you for letting us come in and run a video shoot at your facility and your team, and be able to put together a really nice.
Well, thank you for coming. That was nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. Even during COVID, we were able to do this, and the results are 2 beautiful videos that really show the system well, and your facility in particular. And just again, thank you for that. And I can share that with the rest of the team if they're interested and they can use it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. My pleasure. You can use that. Sure.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And we're going to move on to Megan from Columbia River. Can you hear us, Megan?
I'm not sure if Megan's still on the call.
Okay.
She's only been using the system for about, I want to say 30 days or so, maybe a little bit longer. So I know that she was recently part of that training session that you went out and did, Izzy. So I'm sure, I mean, if she's not on the call, Yeah, it doesn't appear she's on the call. So
We
maybe we
can get
can
her
collect
feedback.
those. What's that?
We can get her feedback after.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I know, Cody, you haven't had a real chance to obviously use our system yet, but maybe do you have any initial observations on at least the installation process as it's going along, or any tips or improvements that we could make on that front? Would you?
No, you know, I overall, I think you guys did a really good job. The crew was really good. I'm putting in a CT unit at the same time, which was a complete mess. So having Mike Torres and everybody else organize it, it was a pretty good comparison. So I think it's gone well. Haven't had any issues that were on your side controllable.
Okay, good. That's great to hear. Excellent. Okay, so thanks for all that information, guys. That was good. Good information. We're going to work on the behind the scenes to kind of collate a list and find some common denominators, and maybe we'll either share those that list towards the end of the meeting, or we'll follow up with some additional communication early next week, etc. But right now we got a 15-minute break.
All right. I think we are back. It's 1:40 according to my watch. Good. Same with you, Sean. All right.
Yep.
Awesome. Just to remind everyone where we are in the agenda, I thought it'd be good to throw this slide back up. We are right on track. We're right on schedule. In fact, maybe a few minutes early. So we'll keep this moving. A couple of really important sessions coming up. We've got Sean kicking us off with a new idea he wants to share with you. And again, this is a concept. It's not something that we are for sure doing, but we want to make sure you're aware and love your feedback on it. We've got hopefully some clinical cases prepared by some of you, and then a little bit of fun marketing feedback, and then we'll close out the meeting. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn that over. Keep us on time.
Wonderful. So as Lynn mentioned, we want to treat this next session as a bit of a focus group to solicit feedback on an idea we're kicking around. We've observed, part of my job is to look at the marketplace, listen to you guys, make observations, and try to offer suggestions to the executive team and to Steve's team that might provide value to you folks. So this product feedback, this next section that we wanted to get feedback on is a service that's not new to the industry, but it would be certainly new to us. If you want to go to the next slide, Lynn, it's a virtual operator service, VOS for short. And as I mentioned, and our CEO wanted me to make sure that I reinforced, it's very exploratory. We're very early in the process of evaluating the service and whether there's a need in the marketplace. So observes challenges. So as I interview you guys and talk to you folks, we made this, we've positioned our system as having software that's easy enough to be run by veterinary technicians. And I think that by and large, we deliver on that claim with the proper level of support that we offer, AKA Izzy and Kelly. As I look at our customer base, one of the common things that I've noticed is that there's a fair bit of staff turnover, not due to any particular reason, but just because of life. Life happens, and as a result, there's a fair amount of churn. It feels like the trend that I see is a neurology staff lasts about a year. There's some exceptions, and some outliers. Dr. Mosine and has had some longer term folks. Certainly Dana with Jennifer have had, really long term folks, but it seems like Isabel and Kelly are going out on about an annual basis and training a new crop of people. And the perceived challenge with that is you're going to have wildly variable levels of aptitude. And the way we define aptitude is this, is experience plus skill is aptitude. And so, there are some clinicians, some veterinary technicians who have had some level of advanced imaging experience, and others are just green as a day long, but they're willing. Others are looking just, for a job and maybe aren't as willing. It's just all over the board. And it's leading to this highly variable clinical user experience for you guys, for the clinicians. So what we wanted to do is say, okay, what is the challenge here? What are the things that we're trying to solve? But before I get to that, I'll talk about the idea of the VOS concept and how it would work. The way we framed it out is that we would still come on site and provide a couple of days of on-site training where we would train veterinary technicians on MRI safety, basic machine operation like Q&A, and then certainly patient positioning, because patient positioning is extremely important. But behind the scenes, we would have a licensed MRI technologist as the quarterback, the operational quarterback, with the clinician providing overwatch. And the way we would get around that is, yes, the veterinary technicians would be trained on basic patient positioning, but if, let's say that, one of our virtual operators ran a pilot and they needed to make an adjustment on patient positioning, we would deploy as part of the solution a very robust camera and microphone array to provide that real-time collaboration. And we would be utilizing off-the-shelf technology for that. And there's lots that we don't know. We'd have to solve, for interference. We'd have to beta test it to make sure that it worked. But the idea, of course, is that it's this real-time relationship, so that the virtual operator can say, hey, rotate the patient 5 degrees or whatever, or we need to straighten up that back for that animal who's in dorsal, we're coming to see. And then more technology associated with that. You'd have an online scheduling system with back-end manual coordination. You'd have someone, more than likely, you'd have someone like an Isabel providing, playing traffic cop and using her experience to direct traffic. And, because the feedback that we've received so far is 50% of cases are scheduled and the other 50% are surprise emergencies. So stuff's going to happen. So, there's going to be a learning process associated with it. We would most assuredly start with a beta site and begin to learn from that beta site and slowly roll out that service to other locations. But the benefit, the benefit for you folks is that everyone would be playing to their strengths, would be focusing on their core competencies. So a veterinary technician, would be responsible for patient monitoring and anesthesia, and of course, basic patient positioning. And then you have, access to, licensed, experienced MRI technologists, that you could schedule, and then we would work towards an on-demand sort of situation. From a practical standpoint, we're thinking about a small monthly subscription fee along with an hourly rate. That's in the preliminary research that I've done, that seems to be an existing model that's already out there with several other companies. So the next slide, really, this is what we wanted to really get to with this session is, What do you guys think? Is this valuable? Is there a need for this in the marketplace? Could you see yourself utilizing the service? You know, some of the things that we need to get closer to would be when do you think you would need the service available? I've got a working theory based on some information I've already collected, but I'd like to hear it from you guys. You know, what's a reasonable price cost structure? You know, we don't want to be, you know, we certainly don't want to be the most expensive. We don't want to be the least expensive. We want to offer it at a fair price, and at one that adds value to your world. And then finally, you know, what aren't we considering? What are the bugaboos that we just don't know that we don't know? You know, again, as I've done my preliminary research, it seems like, you know, the biggest challenge with this is going to be staffing as it relates to handling scheduling collisions and peak demand. That's one of the things that kind of scares us about offering a service like this, is providing the appropriate level of staffing so that you guys have you know, a superior clinical experience with it. So anyway, those are some of the things that you know, these are some of the considerations that we wanted to talk through, and just get your feedback in general. So I had spoken to to Amanda and Christiane about this service over the previous couple of weeks, and I think that, I don't want to put her on the spot, but I think that Dr. Fallon maybe is coming from a practice that utilizes a virtual operator service as well. So Christiane or Amanda, do you maybe you could lead us off with just your general feedback on what we just laid out for you.
Sure, I can go first.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay, you go.
It doesn't matter. Okay. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that conceptually, I think it's great. I think that you know, there is a lot of turnover in veterinary medicine. I think that COVID has really escalated that as well. And to get someone who is really skilled to run an MRI, whether it be a certified veterinary tech or someone in Izzy's situation who was a human technologist and came to the veterinary world, is difficult to find sometimes. And so I think that, is it valuable? Yes, I think it has its place. Could I see myself utilizing it? I think in certain situations, yes, as well. I have a unique situation where one of my technicians is very interested in physics, and one of my new ones is interested in physics and MRI knowledge. So I think she's going to have a strong passion for MRI. When would it need to be available? That's, I think, where it's going to get tricky with staffing, because, you know, the neuro is feast or famine, and it is, 50% of this and 50% of that. And so you either have to have someone trained on staff to be able to run it, or you have to kind of rely on this service. And then if you rely on a service of such nature, then it is a 24/7 service, because many of us have nights, weekends, things like that. And so that I think is going to be the biggest limiting factor, is getting people. Pricing wise, I hadn't put too much thought into yet, but I would be, you know, depending on I think it would have to be a per scan model, or like depending on, I guess, unless you used it full time, a monthly service fee. But I think and then scheduling collisions, because if you use it full time, especially all of us, you know, if you think of however many sites you have, in theory, you'd have to have, you know, a factor of that to consider, at least, you know, one operator per 2 sites, for example, if they're using them full time, just to make sure that you don't have those collisions.
Yeah. From an availability perspective, I'll share with you the feedback that I've gotten so far is that you guys practice medicine 7 days a week. I mean, this is across our entire customer base. You know, 7 days a week. You know, starting at 6, 7 a.m. going to 6, 7 p.m. 7 days a week, but you're not necessarily doing middle of the night stuff. The feedback I got, I think it was from Dr. Steele, Megan. She said, if the patient's not stable enough to make it till morning, they're probably not a good candidate for, to be under general anesthesia for an MRI or surgery. So, but 7 days a week with extended hours during the day, is that a fair take on availability?
I do think you're going to find neurologists though that do operate after hours. Like I operate after hours, so I think we're not as common these days, but you are going to find some that do operate after hours.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you, Amanda. I think there is some need after hours. I was going to say the Veterinary Specialty Hospital San Diego has a virtual operator that comes in, and for I think they're still doing it, but for weekends, after hours work, it was quite handy to just have an anesthesia tech and they would take over and run the scan for you. And they were doing 2 or 3 scans at other locations at the same time. They're human MRI techs, but that was a very, very handy system.
At the same time?
Yeah, they'll be on the phone with two other centers simultaneously.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but they do an excellent job. They, because coming from the San Diego Center, they do cut after hours here, like literally after hours, any hour, midnight, 2 a.m., whatever. And so they use that as kind of a way of making the lives of their staff here a little bit better, insofar as then you only have to have 1 person on call versus 2 people on call. So the quality of life for the technicians that just do the MRI and the CT here is very good because they have coverage after hours if they need to. But I also think the benefit is that when you have someone after hours, because even if you're not a neurologist who believes in cutting backs at 2 in the morning, for me, I still, even though I don't want to do that, I still work 12, 13-hour days. And so the question is, could you utilize some of that after hours, quote unquote, as being after 5 p.m. and your technicians can go home on time and see, still maintain a quality of life, which I think is something we struggle with, because when we ask them to stay late and we don't have the capacity to compensate them appropriately monetarily, I think you get a lot of turnover. So that's in addition to after hours. It's just not 2 a.m. after hours, but maybe it's 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Or if you have a reliable technician that goes on vacation, would that be something that you could kind of flex in and out of?
Yeah, that's great feedback. All right, as a follow-up to that, Caroline, would you say, so I hear you loud and clear that extended hours, middle of the night, weekends, vacations is all, those are all, let's call it, those are no-brainers. Could you see, could anyone see yourselves utilizing this service as their primary service, in the middle of the day, in the middle of the workday? Christian?
Well, I think we need to maybe one way to approach that problem, all of us work very differently, would be to make that service perhaps flexible. When you're asking for monthly contribution, if someone do not want to use these service all the time, it becomes a little bit difficult. I see myself certainly, or the practice, using these services, which would be great, but we probably do not need that all the time anyway, where I am set. Yeah, I think it would be nice to have available, but I think it would, I would like to see it as being flexible, so everybody can get from this what they need. It may also ease the traffic at some times, where you might have less collision if someone actually over here don't need the service right now, but over there they do. So that's my my 2 cents of here. Yes, it would be definitely valuable. Again, I would I would see some flexibility in there.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Amanda, how often do you work in the middle of the night? Just so I get an idea of frequency.
Not often. A majority of the time I can find stuff that waits till the morning. So once every a month, once 2 months, every other month, something like that. It's not super frequent.
Okay. Gotcha.
So for me, sometimes I work late at night, but I usually don't do middle of the night. But yeah, I can be there pretty late at night.
So define pretty late. Are we talking 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock?
Yeah, probably 9. I've seen 10.
9, 10 o'clock. Okay. And is that relatively often?
No, it's not often.
Okay, gotcha. So what if we develop this model where it's based on sort of because we've got data on when you guys are scanning in general, and it's
right.
there does seem to be some trends on that. So if we made if you could get access to someone late at night on the weekends, etc. But it was some kind of a slightly there was an upcharge for it or something, not crazy, but just something kind of an upcharge to pay that the person who'd have to be covering that appropriately. That on the surface, that would seem to be a reasonable sort of exchange there. You guys get the coverage that you need, and we're able to compensate our people for providing that coverage. So it's kind of a rhetorical out loud thought there, I guess. Okay.
I have a question for you. I mean, we both have the UK and here as location for the Hallmark machine. Don't you have technician over in the UK area that could cover overnights over here and vice versa? So people don't have to pay an overnight charge because somebody is called in at 3 o'clock in the morning to guide people, a technician. Could it come from the UK instead? Which is in the middle of the day for there.
Yeah, that's a good observation. They're 5 hours ahead of us. So in theory, they could provide early morning coverage, let's say.
Better.
Yeah, 4 a.m., 5, 6 p.m. But just to be clear, we're talking about two separate things there. One is, early morning support from the UK versus a virtual operator service, which we're going to treat as two separate sort of services, as it were. So,
I was talking about virtual operating service. Why can it not come from the different locations? Or don't we have that yet? I'm not getting the picture.
Yeah, so you're asking why can't we get support?
I understand they're two separate. Yeah, they're two separate entities. I understand that, but won't you have VOS over in the UK?
It's something we haven't considered yet. Yeah, it's so early that we hadn't even thought about whether they could provide early morning.
It's just for the US.
At this point, we were just thinking about it for the US, because our customer base over here is growing at a relatively higher rate than maybe it is over in the UK relative to small animal MRI. So and our strategic focus on the small animal side is here in North America. So initially it was something that we were just considering for staffing for the US, but that's a good point though.
Okay.
Yep, good point. Okay. I want to make sure that
I will say, Sean, that when I spoke with Orland Park, one of our conversations was who is going to run the MRI when things get started, and what is the game plan there. So the idea of having a VOS would probably be valuable to me, because if I'm the person running the MRI or assisting my tech or somewhere along those lines, it would be, I think, useful to think about being able to free oneself up if I have a ton of things going on and could be more useful as a doctor versus running the machine.
Yeah.
Because that was something we talked about, is the financial leverage there of having a full-time technician running the MRI versus me doing it versus, you know, what would the options there be in the trade-off. So I do think that outside of emergency and after hours would potentially be interesting for me at least.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So, I mean, as I think Christian mentioned, you know, every single site is going to have a slightly different story and is going to have slightly different needs. You know, for some practices, I can see, you know, maybe we staff a full-time equivalent MRI licensed MRI technologist for, you know, let's say Orland Park as an example, and you treat them almost as an adjunct employee. And can provide, you know, some, you know, maybe we find someone who can provide, who can contribute to sort of the brain power. You know, maybe they have a passion for MRI physics as an example, and they just know it inside and out. And, you know, you can come to rely on them as an adjunct part of your staff. Whereas, you know, Amanda has that person in-house already, and maybe doesn't need, you know, that person because she's already found that person. But she does need, you know, the occasional after hours, extended hours, the occasional middle of the night, holiday coverage, stuff like that. So I think that there's going to be a wide range of needs. And that's part, again, that's part of the scary part. The challenge is trying to figure out, you know, what that demand looks like so that we can hire and staff accordingly. That's what we haven't quite figured out yet. So anyway, I certainly want to keep on schedule here. So great feedback. Thank you very much for that. I think we're going to move on to clinical cases and protocols. And part of me introducing this next segment is to ask the question, did anyone bring anything to present whatsoever today?
Yes, of course. That was our homework.
Cody, winner, chicken dinner. Awesome.
I'm unemployed, so bring it on.
That's good.
Awesome. That's great. All right. So,
but it's not a Hallmark unit. Do you care if it's not a Hallmark unit?
Nah, it just has to be interesting. And so let me set the table here. Is there anyone besides Cody who is going to be able to share something with us today? Anything that's interesting?
Please.
I have some stuff too. So.
Who's that?
Mosine.
Okay, cool, awesome.
Yeah.
And then I think Simon's gonna finish off this session with sharing a case, maybe two, depending on how much time we have. And Simon's going to facilitate this next segment as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Simon and let him facilitate the segment. Simon, off to you.
All right, thank you very much. This was a segment of the meeting that we've discussed in terms of how it should be formatted and be beneficial to everyone. You're obviously taking time out of your day, apart from Cody apparently, who doesn't have a job right now, but you make the most of it because it sounds like you probably will not have much time coming up soon. But you're taking time out of your day to come to this. So how could this be beneficial to you? But then also, I guess, bring some not necessarily concerns, or issues, but some talking points to Hallmark, so that it can be a two-way street. So that going forward, the next meeting, for instance, we could use this session as a way to problem solve, maybe a kind of live list serve, and so when we've put here that present a case short with a unique aspect, doesn't need to be some publishable case, doesn't need to be something extremely rare. I mean, if you've got something, then great that you want to share with the group. But I think the idea is that we're talking about how has either an aspect of the imaging that you're capable of doing on the unit you have helped you out, so to share with the group in getting a diagnosis, or is there something missing from what you're able to do that could have helped you out, and maybe someone in the group can help out, share their ideas based on similar cases. So a way to really present your case. And then, and it doesn't obviously have to happen today because we're just introducing this, but a way to present your case that is, short and has maybe an interesting aspect to it. And maybe just open it up to any questions and answers. But there's an aspect to it where either the choices you've helped or you want suggestions. And we have an opportunity here with both Steve in the meeting, who basically has built the machine, from my understanding, has a fantastic technical knowledge, and Izzy, who's running the machines, to get some feedback about how we could do better. And so that's kind of setting us up, I think, for the next meeting, but and see what comes out of this one. But I don't think we wanted it to be a case presentation like in ACVM, where we all stand up and red dots appear on our bodies because someone's going to pop us off if we say something wrong. We're not suitably impressing everyone, and so this is more informal, meant to be a bit of fun, and really just prompt some questions which may, in a two-way street fashion, help out. So that's kind of the intro to this. I think Hallmark also will be in touch about case studies for the website, and that's going to be a slightly different angle, where it's really going to go to different sections of the community, including general public. So it's more of an advertising of what the magnets can do and what sort of cases can be helped by this. So that'll be a slightly different thing, but for the future. So for today, the focus is going to be on trying to present something that maybe we can then say get some help with in the future. Then I can pass this over to Cody. I see someone's made him a co-host, so he'll maybe be able to share his presentation, and I then can.
It sounds like somebody with a Hallmark unit had something to present, which I would step aside for.
Kelly, I think.
Cody, you could go ahead and present yours too, if that's okay, if you have time to present yours too.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to follow you, but all right.
No. I don't have it. Yeah, I made something up basically, but I've had the luxury of traveling to a lot of practices throughout the States over the last 2 years, seeing just about every unit and every process and how they use the unit, especially with training goes. The quality of your image is only good at the training that they're putting out, and so we've really got to shop around, and I've seen some people using the Hallmark well. I've seen some people using very high-end, nice 1/2T magnets, but don't produce quality images. So one of the things that seems to be that comes up a lot is positioning. Positioning the animals for spine studies. I don't know if you guys all come across that too, but the technical training side, some of them can actually get decent quality images, but the positioning is always their failure, and then having to rescan time when they're not positioning well. And so that seems to be something I come across at multiple facilities. The one thing I was going to say about your VOS, Sean, was that the San Diego group specifically, and Dr. Fallon, don't tell the group there because I love them, but those overnight technicians that were operating it remotely often will get really good quality images. And so when you talk about value, they would sometimes supersede your staff that you've got employed, which is unfair because their experience level is so high. But I came across that there quite often too, so I was happy to have them actually do the remote work.
I guess absolutely concur. I won't tell anybody.
Yeah,
but
well,
I agree.
I think that was the challenge, was someone who's been doing it for 6 months versus an MR tech that's been doing it their whole career. And then they come in the middle of the night and show them up, and I was perfectly pleased to have them run a study at 10 p.m. because I knew what quality I was going to get every time. And so that had its own perceived value that may have actually been above your inherent labor costs in the house. But I guess I'll share a screen here.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Let me see if I can share the screen.
On the bottom, you should have a green arrow. Yep, there you go.
Yeah, there you go, Cody. I've made you a. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is not fair. This is a post-op, but this is Cole's, a 4-year-old neutered male Dalmatian that presented for pelvic limb incoordination, but severe neck pain. The owner, positional neck pain. Anytime the dog was active, laying down, jump up, hear the doorbell ring, and bolt or jump out of the vehicle. It just had excruciating neck pain. This is a post-op of the dog jogging around 2 weeks afterwards. But honestly, the pre-op looked like this, and it was one of those cases where I kind of told the vet I was working at, the neurologist there, as well as the client, you're crazy to do surgery on this dog. It's fine, and it kept coming back, and so they did an initial set of images, and I'll see if I can pull those up. Let's see if I can change. I have to learn how to change screens here. That one I don't know. How to new share.
You stop sharing. Yep.
Yeah, it's usually best to do a new share.
There you
go.
So they did an initial study 2 months prior to this one, and they had cut their axials in a way that actually I think made the intervertebral foramens quite large, and so missed what I think was the pathology between the C5-6. You can see that. I'll move this reference bar out of the way. A little bit of disc degeneration here. The quality of the images on the first study were really poor, a lot of noise in the background. And so they were interpreted as fairly normal. They were sent out to a radiologist, two radiologists. They got a second read who didn't identify any pathology other than disc degeneration, mild changes in nuclear signal. But the dog came back, and I happened to be doing a locum at the practice at that time. So we rescanned it, and these are the rescan studies. And the owner was quite concerned because the dog had progressed over the last 60 days to severe neck pain. Coordination was getting worse. I wasn't terribly impressed with the pathology here, but there was some definitely boxing in of the vertebral canal here, and on some of the other sequences started to show some compression. And so this dog, I'll put the notes up here. I think I can put the directions on here. We were worried about this encroaching on the intervertebral foramen and being sort of a classic wobbler dog. And early on, one of the things we couldn't get was within the right C5-6 foramen. I don't know if you can see, does my cursor come up when I do this?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, on several of the stir sequences and some of the sequences that we cleaned up, this turned out to be what looks like herniated disc material here. And on initial glance, I blew it off as not much. But the short story is we ended up going to surgery with this dog and did a right lateral foraminotomy, and definitely had a herniated disc material. It had definitely a herniation of his annulus there. And it was quite compressed. The spinal nerve was quite compressed in the area. We removed a good portion of the pedicle to decompress the canal, and the dog ended up doing well. The post-op image was the one who's trotting up and down. That's a couple weeks after surgery, and the owner's report he's doing well. I thought it was going to be in vain until we got in there surgically. This was a case that we used to see-arm to guide us and get us a very minimally invasive approach for the dog. But I thought on the imaging side, it was just a good example of the initial run was read as fairly normal. And then as we did more and more studies, more slices here, I'll see what I downloaded these, so I may not have them all on my imaging program, but it became a little bit more apparent that there might have been some pathology there. And it's just from, I don't know if you guys can spot some of that heterogeneous change within that canal, and that's where most of the pathology was. But it was fairly fresh and mobile nuclear debris in that canal, and it was obviously causing the dog quite misery. So ended up turning out well, but I just thought it was interesting that the previous MR images, which didn't have the greatest positioning, I think they sort of sheared the axials on a pitch that opened up that frame, and it made it look a little larger than it was, and was right out normal until the dog, the owner kept pressing us, and I didn't think it was worthwhile to scan it again, actually, until we got these images. I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but that's
yeah. No, actually, Cody, that is very helpful. Thanks for that, because I think it's things like that can help out with making decisions about how we're going to approach the individual patients on the scanner, and moving forward again the next meeting. Tips like that, or issues that you have that someone else may have said, okay, we changed this and it's worked for us, or a new sequence that has helped out would be good. It's not about the the depth of the quality of the case, like disc disease versus some novel genetic abnormality. I think this is more just a forum that we can look at how the MRI has or hasn't helped out, and that's a perfect example of something that can 1 minute look normal, and then with some change in technique look abnormal. So thanks very much for that. That is a great start. Thank you.
It'll be interesting follow-up, because she's just about an hour and a half away, and she's gonna come back and let us rescan this dog with our magnet when we're up and going.
Yeah, that actually would be a fantastic comparison. And again, that utilizing that the next time round, even if it's only like a 5-minute pitch, that is very interesting to see. The rescan education is, in all our cases, when we have the opportunity, is fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, was there someone else that wanted to present something?
Yeah, I can go ahead and present mine. I have actually 2 of them, and I'll kind of talk about why I did the second one as well, and the importance of these meetings too. Okay, I have no idea. Let's see. I am like technologically challenged, y'all, so don't judge. Yeah. I think it's this one. All right, those are my miniatures, y'all. Those are my miniatures.
They're awesome.
So I literally built all of that from scratch. I built the couch, the bed, the building, all of it. So a lot of.
What is that made out of?
Wow. Yeah.
What is that made out of?
They're made out of all kinds of things. There's hard cardstock paper. There's wooden pieces. There's fabric. It's a little bit of everything.
Kelly, that is amazing.
I like tiny things. I joke that the tiny things bring me joy, and that's why I'm a neurosurgeon. So.
Did you teach yourself that, or where
I
did you?
I got some kits, so they have like kits that all go together. The one on the right, the tea shop, that took me about 2 months to do, and the one on the left, the little apartment, only took me a few days. So.
Wow. Do you ever make little people to go in them?
No, nobody wants people in them. They're just cute the way they are.
Yeah. Fine.
My husband's like, well, how many of these are we going to have? I'm like, a bazillion. It's fun.
You need to find like a cat that you can curl up on the little couch there or something.
Yeah. It's a lot of
amazing.
fun once it's done. I swore after the first one I wouldn't do it again, and then I went and bought another one. So those are the miniatures. So my case
Very impressive.
is Mateo. He was a 2-year-old male intact mastiff. He presented for ataxia and difficulty walking. 1 week prior to presentation, the owner noted that the patient defecated a large amount of green material. He then became lethargic and ataxic. He was evaluated by his family care veterinarian, and there was concern for Rowethalin ingestion. He was hospitalized there for about 2 or 3 days and received IV fluids and methocarbamol with no improvement, so he was transferred to us for further evaluation. He came in on a Friday, and he may have had a short seizure that morning of presentation. Upon initial exam, he was very dull and difficult to assess. He was about 130 pounds, so he was non-ambulatory. They hospitalized him over the weekend on IV fluids and methocarbamol. He showed maybe a mild improvement throughout the weekend, but then he worsened again on Monday, and he may have had a potential seizure on day 3 of hospitalization with us. His neurologic exam, he was obtunded. He had poorly ambulatory with generalized proprioceptive ataxia, absent proprioception all limbs, absent menace response, OU, and diminished facial sensation on the left. So I was concerned about a diffuse cortical lesion. The way that he was waxing and waning was interesting, and the owner could not be 100% sure that he had ingested bromethylene. So we elected to go ahead and do an MRI on him and see what was going on there, if there was another underlying or concurrent neurologic condition with him. Unfortunately, our Mateo did show signs of bromethylene and intoxication on his MRI. So these are our T2 sequences. And as you can see there throughout the cortical white matter in the tracks there, you can see the T2 hyperintensities there. And it's just beautiful. It's an awful thing for these dogs to go through because of the poor prognostic to it. But it is a really cool MRI images, just especially with the anatomy that you can see. And looking down here, you can see the beautiful white tracks down there. They are just gorgeous on this. So it was very pathognomonic for bromethylene intoxication. We also did do the DWI and ADC, which you can see has the hyperintensity and hypointensity on the ADC, showing cytotoxic edema that is suspected with this condition. Unfortunately, they did elect to go ahead and euthanize Mateo at that point because of his decline that morning. But we were able to get them an answer. It's an unfortunate condition that can be avoided, but it was really cool to see the beauty of those images and see how nice our images look and being able to determine these intoxications and seeing exactly those white tracks is just a really cool thing. My other case,
they are nice images. Yeah, it is.
They are
unfortunate for the dog, but it really is kind of a nerdy, beautiful thing to see that white matter like that.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very nice. I then want to follow up with you guys. At the meeting in San Diego a year and a half ago, I presented just interesting cases and images that I had in hospital and through my time as a new neurologist and specialist. And I presented a case, her name was Willa. She was an 8-month-old female spayed domestic short hair and kind of in the deep for inability to walk. And they had got her about a month before and she began dropping her pelvic limbs. There was concern for chronic T3L3 myelopathy. These are the images that I presented at San Diego, and I was like, what in the world is going on here with that change at L1 that you can see there, and then that significant compression with a little tiny spinal cord there. I had no idea if I was dealing with some kind of weird tumor versus some kind of granuloma infectious disease that we are going on, and I brought this case up, and it was amazing that you guys jumped in to help me and said, have you ever thought about vertebral angiomatosis? And I said, what, and I had never really thought about that. So I did more research into it. And you guys had mentioned that you'd had some cases that had done really well with surgical intervention. And I looked more into it and I was like, wow, this really does fit with Willa. Because we had talked about going in for a biopsy with the owner and she just was concerned about how the cat would do long term. When I went back to her and told her, hey, there's a chance that we could really help Willa, she did elect to go ahead and go forward with the surgery. So prior to surgery and after surgery, we did a CT. You can see there on the left, all of that change in the bone there. And then don't judge, it's a little crooked. Don't judge the hemi. It was able to remove a large amount of that bone. When I went in, the bone was significantly abnormal. It was extremely, the cortical bone was extremely rough in texture and extremely friable and had a large amount of vessels in even the cortical bone that was there. I took away about 6 or 7 millimeters of bone in that area. She was a little worse post-op, but she did well in recovery. And we are a little over a year out, and Willa went from being paraplegic to completely ambulatory with mild ataxia in the pelvic limbs. Her owner is absolutely thrilled, and she's just doing awesome. And it just really shows the importance of these meetings, because I would have never, ever thought about that and thought about vertebral angiomatosis in this young cat. And we did end up getting the histopath back that showed vertebral angiomatosis. So that's what it was. I'm just so thankful to you guys for helping me with this case. As a young specialist, you sometimes just don't know, and to be able to go to that meeting and present this case and have you guys help me and allow me to be able to help my patients was a huge thing. And this is Willa. This was her pre-op. So you can see her sitting there with the paraplegic, not being able to move. And this is Willa post-op, sitting like a normal cat. So I really wanted to bring this case tonight and really thank you guys for the help that you gave me as a new specialist. It was amazing to have that support from all of you guys, and I really appreciate it.
It is a very cool case. Have you, did you see anything once you found out what it was and you got histopath confirmation? Did you see anything on the imaging that that would help you with other cases, or that made it stand out from other cases?
She was a little bit, sorry, she was a little bit weird in the case that some of these appear a little different on T1 and T2 hyperintensities. Hers was not exactly pathognomonic for it. I think that's what threw me off as well. But it's one that I think it can definitely help me in being able to see, like, oh, that's bone, oh, that looks a lot different, and seeing that thickness in that area, I think will definitely help me in the future.
Right, that's a very cool case. Thanks very much for showing that. So does anyone, or has anyone got any questions for Cody or Kelly about those cases or imaging associated with them? And if not, does anyone have another case they wanted to present? That's where the crickets come in, Lynn.
Yeah, I have to put my cricket back on the screen.
Okay, well then, how are you doing for time? Do you want just to throw up another case, or move on? How are you feeling?
We have time for one case, I think.
Let's do a case. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Let me share the screen then, and. Okay, what do you see? Do you see the presenter view? Do you see anything yet?
It just came on and then went again.
Okay.
Oh yeah, presenter view.
Yeah, you're on presenter view.
All right, then I will swip the display. Now you just got one slide? Okay, yeah, great. Perfect. All right. Yeah, so this was, there was some just small amount of images pulled from a couple of cases done in the UK. So not the full imaging suite that I had available, but it brought up a couple of questions that, not knowing how this session would go, I thought would just show an example of how we could use these sessions going forward. So this is Axel, who's an 11-year-old male Staffordshire Bull Terrier, who prior to presentation had experienced 3 generalized tonic-clonic seizures, otherwise was pretty healthy, nothing found on physical exam. Neurological exam, there was evidence of a asymmetric forebrain lesion, and systemically the only thing that was found was systolic blood pressure after being repeated 2 or 3 times over 180. So on imaging, they found that there was a left-sided lesion. Obviously, this is your T2 weighted and flare transverse images. And so I'm going to put these together for you to see. As I say, I don't have the whole set, but then next set, here's your T1 pre and post contrast. So we have, this is your T2 weighted and this is your flare, and then pre and post contrast. So based on just those 2 images, sets of images, there was a fairly well-defined homogeneous intraaxial mass. You saw that the lesion was both hyperintense on T2 and T2 flare and isointense on T1, but really homogeneously contrast enhancing. surrounded by white matter edema, and that extended into internal capsule corona radiata. And there's a bit of mass effect as well, and some compression of that caudal aspect of the left lateral ventricle. In addition, there was a lesion seen in the left tympanic cavity, extending toward the inner ear. Now, there was no clinical signs of vestibular, facial, or even physical signs of ear disease. This is T1 and then T1 post contrast. And it was felt that the tympanic cavity was filled with this material that was T2 weighted and T2 flare, hyperintense, mildly hyperintense on T1. So if we go back, and then some reasonably strong enhancement of the lining of the inner wall of the bulla. And that, although it's felt that the intralabyrinthine structures were normal, there was no contrast enhancement. There was some contrast detected in the promontory with that area of the, here's I kind of like these old anatomical drawings, the aspect of the cochlea on the turn. There seemed to be some contrast enhancement, but couldn't be determined whether that was real or not. And so in the summary of the imaging findings, there was an intraaxial mass, and this suspected left-sided otitis media, unsure whether there was any extension. And so when we talk about the case, the imaging angle from these, or the discussion points that we could bring out, was not really being quite sure what to think, if this is a truly intraparenchymal mass yet. It's really homogeneously contrast enhancing, and it's focal. Is this something that we're happy calling an inflammatory disease? The CSF was normal, and so potentially we need a little bit further information to suggest where we go with this diagnostically. Doesn't seem to be entirely compatible with, based on its contrast enhancement pattern, with a glioma. Doesn't seem entirely compatible with hematoma based on its contrast enhancement pattern and its time or its duration. Could it be lymphoma? Is that a possible intraparenchymal tumor that would enhance well with this in that way? So the questions would be, DWI ADC wasn't performed in this case. Would it be of value? Is it something that people perform frequently, or do you pick and choose and maybe just do it in your vascular cases? So that's kind of point one. Point two, is there a value of SWI and T2 style gradient echo in this case? Doesn't fit with a hematoma, but would be nice to know how much, if any, there was heme present. Wasn't done again in this case. And then thirdly, where possible, how many people run the thin slice T1 weighted pre and post, like the vibe scans? And I'm coming from a point of view where I'm at this stage not entirely aware of all of the names of the sequences for Hallmark and what is capable. So this is just a set of questions that I wanted to put out there, which you don't need to get too far into, but an idea of how we can run these cases in the future, and see where the Hallmark system can get us. And so that was the end of that case, and more of an example really of how just wanted to make these informal cases, not necessarily earth shattering, but potentially coming up with some questions that we could ask. We seem now to be running across the field profession more DWI and ADC, and not restricting it just to vascular disease, although I find myself personally not quite sure how often it helps us. If we get histopath, we can look back and go, okay, maybe I can explain what that was. Whereas with vascular disease, and you've got your history to help you out as well, complement it, then potentially that's going to be more valuable. But that's again a question for the group if anyone wants to comment. And then how often we run anything in addition to gradient echo, and it's maybe then where Steve and Izzy can come in as to what gradient echoes are run, does SDWI get routinely run, and then the thin scans as well, whether that would be valuable in this case or not. This case was in the end treated with immunosuppressive medication, and 6 months later is still doing well, hasn't had a rescan yet, so at least hasn't got worse. Normal CSF tap, not fully supportive of an inflammatory disease, obviously, but there are those cases that we know that potentially still could be inflammatory. So no exciting follow-up for you, unfortunately. But does anyone want to comment on that? Do you want me to move on to just the next one? We'll put up the slide of crickets again.
Don't let us put the cricket slide
Or
in.
has everyone left? So it's not necessarily that anyone says anything if you don't want to, because it's really, I just really wanted to show this as not necessarily let's discuss this case, but this as a way to highlight what we're going to use these cases for, maybe at our next session, at the next meeting. So I'll just go forward until anyone interrupts me.
I was just going to say, I think for me, I don't do a lot of DWI and ADC unless I have some sort of clinical suspicion or the images I'm looking at already kind of look vascular. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I do really like T2 stars and GREs for tumors and things like that. And then I do think that the vibes are really helpful. I know Dr. Hecht at Tennessee, who's a radiologist, she always runs hers, her T1s posts as the vibes. And I think they're actually beneficial, although I'm not sure, depending on how much time you're, like the benefit of the time lost versus the increased capacity to read your images with the vibe.
Right. Yeah. No. And we tend to run a lot of vibe, and there's across the field again. I think a lot more are being done, and based on human work, it seems that they do increase the so-called conspicuity of lesions. And I'm not sure how much is out there for at least forebrain lesions. I know for some of the nerve root lesions and cranial nerve lesions potentially. Or for instance, like facial nerve paresis, it seems to be quite helpful, pre and post contrast. The ADC, I'm with you in. I haven't really run a lot without suspecting there's a vascular disease, and maybe we're just at the start of understanding what our lesions show up as. Because it is nice once you get histopath back, if you do that, to say, okay, well, I can try and explain it now, but otherwise. It's maybe just a very small piece of, if it's not vascular, obviously it's a small piece of the set of facts that you're going to get back. But I'm just wondering whether a lot of people do this more routinely, and whether they use it to talk about just how, if it went for tumors, for instance, how densely populated the tumor is with cells versus not, and does that help you do anything, or is this just kind of more esoteric at this stage? So that's why I threw that question out, more to find out what people are doing.
I can maybe talk then, because we do DWI on most of our brain patients, just because it's such a quick sequence, and it just goes, and it takes no time. I don't see it as of right now being all that helpful, because again, as you says, we don't have a whole lot of information about what does that correspond histopathologically, and it usually, by looking at other sequences, I can come up with a very similar conclusion right now. So I'm not saying that it's not helpful. I'm just saying I'm not quite sure what to do with that information at this time. But we do, if someone wants to look at, images that, or a location where we do a lot of DWI, We do them very most of the time on all our patients.
Yeah, it does bring up a good point as well, you know, because I also thought when we were discussing having these case studies for the meeting, what aspects should we focus on so that people feel they're getting something out of it. Ultimately, it's a small group that I hear, and maybe that gets bigger, but it really could and end up improving the information that's out there by doing some retrospectives among the groups. For instance, Christiane, if you're doing DWI all the time, and right now, yeah, I agree, we don't really know, besides the vascular aspect, how useful it ends up being, but we could end up with 5-6 groups of people putting in cases that end up getting a diagnosis and making quite a nice sort of multi-center study that you're all using the same machine, sequences for specific diseases. So again, that's one thing that could come out of these case studies, is that we ask questions and we don't know the answers, but that drives forward and helps, I think. I won't say the next generation because I'm not prepared to give up right now, but us going forward, let's say.
Yes.
So anyone else got any other comments? I didn't want to belabor it, but I just wanted to show you really that's how we were. And I think the studies that have gone before the one I did were today's more interesting, but just as a way of trying to tease out some information that while we have at these meetings people like Steve and Izzy on, then potentially we can also bring up some questions about some of these and talk about what value we're getting out of some of the scans. Is there another parameter or sequence that we want to throw into the mix, and what is it that we're using more commonly? A kind of live list serve, if you like. All right, Hallmark team, there's birds but not crickets. Does anyone want to take back over? Or?
Yeah.
The birds might be coming from my place. I don't know.
It's very soothing, Christiane. It's very soothing. I like it.
That's very nice.
Yeah, it's very good.
Do you want to go over this? Are you going to go over this last case?
Do you want me to? I mean, I didn't know where we are with time. I'm happy to.
Time.
We're good.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's do a new share then. Again, not groundbreaking stuff, but it just had some questions come up. Okay, do you see one screen or the presenter view?
You're good.
You see the right one.
Okay, great. All right, so this is Sparky, 11-year-old male-neutered Jack Russell Terrier, presents with right thoracic lymphoresis and some neck pain. It'd been going on for 3 weeks. No interesting stuff pre-existing it, and only thing that was found on neuro exam, on physical exam, was pain on palpation of the neck. Neuro exam, C1, C5 myelopathy. And there's a suspicion of narrow disc on radiographs. However, this was T2 weighted sagittal MRI, and we could obviously see there is what seems to be parenchymal, but who knows whether from this view it could be extramedullary lesion that is compressing the cord, a little heterogeneous in its intensity, and maybe a slight loss of CSF integrity there. So a bit of swelling probably. On transverse T2, again, heterogeneous signal. We got a focal area on the right towards the subarachnoid space, towards the lateral aspect of the cord that is hypo-intense, and the rest hyper-intense, seems really homogeneous, quite solid. Maybe then extramedullary. On our T1, that hypointense area is back again, but majority of it contrast enhances and does so really homogeneously, so I'm pretty strongly compressing the cord here. And so this is our sagittal contrast again, showing that we've got a fairly strong contrast enhancement. And so the number one consideration in this case is that this could be a meningioma based on its fairly homogeneous contrast enhancement, its location. This is thought to be quite a large lesion, and the assessment was made that this was intradural extramedullary, but couldn't rule out an extramedullary mass. And the question may come, well, what difference does it make? We may have to go in and resect it anyway. However, if this is nerve sheath tumor versus meningioma, we could argue that maybe prognosis would be different if we were just going to radiate and not operate, or whether we were going to combine the two. There was some perilesional edema going on that we could see on, at least on that sagittal, with some deviation of that caudal central canal. And so the imaging angles that I thought of for this, because there were no other sequences really run, it was just stopped there, again, are there values of the thin slice T1 weighted pre and post contrast? Would we get some information there that could help us a little bit with origin of tumor, being that may determine our confidence level with what this lesion is. What is their value? We saw a hypointense area on T1, T2. Is there value in this lesion of doing gradient echo? And spinal lesions in general, do you run a lot of gradient echoes in your spinal lesions, or do you pick and choose which cases you do those on? And what about in our spinal lesions, the use of CIS or Fiesta for looking around the nerve roots to see, are they involved? Is there subarachnoid space abnormalities? I know there's now been quite a bit of recent work on using these sequences for subarachnoid abnormalities, like the constrictive myelopathy in the pugs. So wondered whether that was worth discussing, whether people run those on their spinal cord cases, and whether in a case like this it would be worth the time spent. So again, nothing groundbreaking there, just a case to discuss some imaging angles. And I'll open the floor. If there's crickets or birds, then we can move on, but just again wanted to highlight how we could use these cases.
I have a question on that, on using CIS on that example I gave you. Would you have felt that would have highlighted those nerve roots a little better?
Yeah, I've started to use it quite a lot more, and I have been quite shocked about what I didn't see before. I don't know in your specific case, because I thought those images were really good. But I have been shocked in some cases about how much more information that I get from what the subarachnoid space is actually doing, usually from like extradural lesions and yeah, things around the nerve roots. And it's usually done in, I think, I would say, the targeted fashion. So like where, in your case, where you've seen something, rather than a general screening type of thing. I know some people in the UK are doing that, but in their brachycephalic dogs, and especially the pugs now, but any of the ones with vertebral malformations, they're running CIS just to see what's going on. But in a targeted fashion, I think it's a really helpful sequence to use. And I'm not sure what it would have done in this specific case, or the one that you presented. But I think that those are examples of things that it might help out.
Okay, thanks.
And I think another way of maybe using these cases is that had I had a CIS on this case, for instance, and showed that it did make a difference, then that would be something useful to show. Again, not groundbreaking publishable stuff, but this is something that may help us with what the machine can do and how these sequences can vary in terms of their diagnostic capabilities. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Any other questions? points, concerns? One general point to ask is whether you feel that this is something that we could use. I mean, this isn't something that needs to have the format that we've described. If you feel that it would be more profitable, productive for you to have it in a slightly different format, then I mean, by all means, now or after the meeting, send in some comments about how you think it could be better done, or how you like to see it done. Obviously, the more cases, the better, but yeah, the format is going to be the key, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the idea, what Simon mentioned, that there's, this is just really just easy stuff. Just, it's meant to be, sharing cases amongst, colleagues and friends, etc. Just really simple, straightforward. That's what these are. There shouldn't be, you guys shouldn't feel any pressure, undue stress or strain in these sessions. It's just, presenting some easy stuff. So hopefully, we can in July, and certainly when we meet in Savannah, Lord willing, we'll maybe we'll have some more participants, when it comes to this session. Lynn, the next slide there, we want to compare and contrast what Simon just facilitated in this last segment with these case studies. So there's two separate things here at play. These case studies that we're asking you to contribute are going to be used only online on our website, basically. And we've sent out some an online form, a prescription, a script to follow to submit these case studies. We've also made it, we've tried to make it really easy by giving you a link to that allows you to upload the cases, etc. And we've just kind of struggled with getting participation on this front, because again, we know you guys are super busy, and this is probably the last thing on your list, but just try to facilitate participation. Simon very thoughtfully, shrewdly suggested that we just resort to proper bribes. And we also wanted to time box it too, so it's it's just not something that's out there that you'll may or may not get to. So we're going to give out 3 Visa gift card certificates to the 3 most interesting cases, again following that format, again also with the idea that we're going to be submitting these cases, we're going to be putting these cases on our website, giving you all the proper credit, of course, like that. And we've got this deadline of April 15th. So if you need us to actually, we will send out the link again to the with the that has the prescription, the script to follow, the things that we're looking for in the case, and then the link as well to upload the cases. We'll send that out sometime early next week as part of our homework and follow-up. But just wanted to make the distinction between the case studies that moving forward we'll present during these clinical advisory board meetings, easy, no judgment, etc., versus these case studies, which are a bit more comprehensive, and we'll be only sharing them on our website, and you will not be needing to. We won't be asking you to present them.
Yeah.
So anyway,
just clarification too. We may share on social media and things like that as well.
Yes.
Potentially. So more of an external view. Yeah, more visible, much more visible.
Yep. Yep. So
clear? Is that clear for everyone? Any questions? Okay. All right. Any other questions for Simon before we move on to the next section? No? Okay. All right. So following up kind of the last meaty part of our agenda today, I'm going to ask Miranda and Jenny to share with us a couple marketing and advertising concepts, and would love to get your feedback on kind of how we're communicating externally. You know, we talk about educating the market, educating, referring vets, owners, et cetera. We do that in a lot of ways. Case studies is one, that's a more clinical way. And then another more commercially centered, maybe administrative centered way is through our advertising. And I don't know if you've noticed lately, we've really stepped up on that, not only supporting conferences and things like that, which are now mostly virtual, but will evolve eventually to in person, but now also doing print and digital advertising. So we've really pivoted and done a lot more digital advertising just to drive awareness and education of what we have to offer. So I'll turn it over to Miranda.
Hello. So yeah, like Lynn said, we've really kind of gone through a marketing transformation over the last year or so. One thing we did last year was a survey trying to better understand kind of the market and what is on your minds, what's resonating with you. Out of that research, we kind of built out these different messages when we go and market our system, whether it's in a digital banner ad, whether it's on a print advertisement, whether it's language we're using when we're sponsoring a conference. And that first message was around affordability. We found that there was this idea in the market that MRI was very expensive, and veterinarians were instantly thinking that they couldn't afford it. So kind of breaking down that stereotype and building out a message on why it's affordable and how it's affordable when you work with Hallmark. So that was kind of the first main message that came out of that research. The next message was around our system being uniquely designed for small animals versus humans. We know there's a lot of people out there in the market using used human systems, and something that's different about Hallmark is all we do is veterinary. So that's kind of unique to us. And then the last message is really around flexibility, the different ways we're able to install our system. And that's something we want the market to know about, that space doesn't have to limit you from utilizing MRI at your site. So we want to kind of open it up to you and get your feedback. If, you know, these kind of 3 bullet points resonate with you, is there something that we're missing that maybe led you to Hallmark MRI that we're not capturing or we're not shouting about in the market? We'd love to hear that feedback from you. If there is anyone who would like to share.
Maybe we should move on to the visuals, and then people might get the creative juices flowing a bit.
Yeah.
Well, just wanted, I just wanted to say maybe also the fact that this machine is so well supported by your group should probably figure somewhere there, because the support that you provide is outstanding. I don't see that there on those 3 points. I mean, if you get a machine somewhere in one hospital, they know that they're going to get the support that they need at all times. That's important. That's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
No, I think that's a great point. And that's something, honestly, we have not focused on as a sole message in our advertising. And, you know, maybe that's something we want to explore.
Mm-hmm. Great. Any other points? Think about when you speak to other colleagues or to owners, is there anything that you highlight?
I think being new to just purchasing one, so you already won me over, but I think the upside, you know, the uptime guarantees, those kind of things,
okay.
And having a new unit versus a used unit, you know, those had a lot of selling features inherently to them.
One very silly stupid things is my client comes and They want a CT, not an MRI, because it is cheaper. So to get them to convince that this is not the same is difficult. Is there a way we could, I mean, this is not just for Hallmark. They come and they want a CT. But they told me they will CT the scan, the spine. It's like, yeah, but I can't see anything there versus an MRI. It's such great quality images for the client. I mean, the vet, most of them anyway, I would hope, know that, but the common human, the owner that think that they can get the same thing for cheaper is really out there. I have to fight my way through very often. It's like an MRI is much better. They already come with the conception that they can get a CT and that's going to tell them everything.
Okay.
It's just talking about everyday struggle.
Yeah,
It's one of mine. It's not one of mine.
Right.
And we have a CT scan in the building, and that's what they want. And sometimes it's okay, but this is the other option is better.
So just educating more clearly when an MRI is more appropriate than a CT. Yeah.
Or
in which way? Yes. In which way and when should we use that? And when is it so important? Why? Yeah.
Maybe we could put some informational downloadable brochures, sheets on the website that are targeting specific groups. So some can be informational that are useful for the vets. Yeah. Some may be useful for the vets to give to the clients. Some may be useful for the clients who just trawling around. I think that would be good.
Come more prepared. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Great. Thanks. Any other thoughts? I'll show you some ideas.
I think I'm with Cody on this, and the fact that one of the biggest things that I really promote is the lack of downtime. And speaking with other neurologists who have reefers or trailers or whatever, what have you, I do feel that I'm up and running much more than they are. I have people who are down for a month at a time sometimes that I know, and having a reliable magnet is huge for what we do because it plays such a big part in what we do. I had the chiller issues, but once those were fixed, my magnet's hardly ever down. And when it is, it's pretty quick that we get it back up. So that's a big thing for me is the reliability of a magnet.
And the technical support to prevent that to happen too. They are in the background all the time. You don't know that they worked all night long on the problem, but they did. And that's what prevents your machine to break.
The remote monitoring and fix, yeah. Well, fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. So we wanted to give you a little sneak peek. We're kind of on a quarterly rotation now where we're kind of testing different messages in the market when it comes to our advertising. And so coming up, we created some concepts around our new trailer option that is available in the US. This is something we want people to know that we have, that it is an option, that it doesn't require any of your indoor space, gives you a lot of flexibility, easy installation. So that's kind of advertising concept one. We're going to show you some creatives. And then concept two, when Simon came on board very, very shortly ago, one of the pieces of feedback he gave us on our affordable MRI ads that we had been running was that people had the perception that this was a low field magnet, which is a 1.5 T. So we want to actually add that back into our affordable MRI messaging and see maybe if that resonates better with the market. So I'm going to hand this over to Jenny, who is our wonderful creative and brand manager. And she can kind of walk you through 3 different options we put together for promoting our trailer option.
Yep. Hi, everybody. So we've put together a couple of visuals for you. I was going to say it's going to be a bit of a change for you guys to start using the right hand side of your brain, but I realize you're looking at images all day long, so this should be very easy for you guys. So this is the first set of images based on our trailer option, and we're trying to bring in a bit of humor to the adverts to get people's attention, and we've used a slightly different copy on the three of them. So the first one's drive in, hook up, start scanning, and the small text underneath that, which you can't quite see, is specifically saying that we now offer a trailer option. And the second one is roll in, hook up and start scanning, again explaining that we have a trailer option. And no room, no problem. So we've got a solution if you don't have the space to have the scanner in a room. We're going to do a little poll on this. So Rach is going to pop up a poll onto your screens, and we'd just like you to pick your favorite out of the three, basically. So pick away. Oh, it comes up instantly. That's cool.
They are anonymous as well. So if you don't want your know who said what, don't worry.
We'll all come back.
Cool.
All right.
Okay.
I can share the results right now.
A winner on that one.
Winner number 2.
Just number 2, which I think is all of our favorites as well. So that went really well. That's great. Thank you, Rach. And then moving on to the second set of visuals. I think I have to get rid of this too.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so this is pointing out the affordable 1.5T MRI. We had a series of adverts that already went out there, and we didn't include the 1.5T. So, you know, we've put that in there now, so it's totally clear what we're talking about. We're talking about high field magnet, not low field. And it's within reach. So we've used, again, trying to bring in a bit of humor to get people's attention. Cute cats and dogs, who doesn't love those? And again, so we've got 3 options here, and we're going to bring up a poll and get you guys to pick which one is your favorite.
That was quick.
This is great. That's
Here we
great.
go.
Everybody's picked my favorite, so I'm very pleased with that. That's brilliant. Does anybody have any other comments, either specifically about the visuals or about anything else that's been discussed in this section? Anything else that
I would like to see a cat somewhere in your advertisement, because we see a lot more dogs than we see cats. I'm just saying.
Okay. No, that's good.
That's why
I'm with you. I'm with you, Christian. That's exactly right.
I'm the cat guy.
Abby. I'm both.
We can do that. That's great. Okay, is there anything else that anybody else wanted to mention?
Yeah, I got a question actually for the group. Where do you guys go for your clinical information? Like what journals or online websites or publications do you frequent the most, would you say?
Or websites, or
is it just a listserv? Do you go to, you know, ACVIM's online magazine? What are you reading, you know, clinically speaking these days?
in your spare time. Maybe that's the challenge. Or newsletter.
I've done.
Yeah.
ACVIM is a big one. Vet Partners or vetspecialist.com. Both of those are ones that I've been integrating a lot into our practice software, especially with our client information type pages, but also having clients directed to those websites. But as far as resources go, I don't know if PubMed does advertising on the site.
Gotcha. Okay. We're just always curious, where, it's valuable for us to know that so that we can, better direct our advertising dollars, and so that people actually see this wonderful creative stuff that we're working on. So just curious about that.
Well,
Okay.
if you're trying to reach the community, you want to take a journal that goes out there quite a lot, like Vet Practice. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be what I read, which is going to be boring for most veterinarians. They don't want to hear about that stuff. But, Vet Practice and the generalized community will go for that a lot more. So, and we need to reach the population. That's what I believe, more than going through a very sophisticated specialty journal at this point. That would be my take on this. So you get the message out there quick.
Are you talking about specifically like for the referring community?
For the owners.
Like for
the
owners.
referring community, yes, correct. For both of them, actually.
Okay.
For the owners
One
too.
don't go without the other. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The owner will go read these kind of things. They have the same kind of thing in the horse.com, horse magazine. People go read that. And if you make just a little advertisement in there, it's like, MRI for a dog, really? And there you go. So it's, the referral vet practice, but also the owner directly, I think, the owners. So that's why I'm saying not necessarily what I read, but what more of the community can read, what is more amenable to the generalized population.
Yeah, we never considered
thinking out of the box.
Yeah, of course. We never considered actually advertising to referring veterinarians. Maybe there's an angle there to increase their awareness, which would drive business, to you guys. Yeah.
That's where the DBM 360
it starts there. For us in private practice, that's where it starts. If we don't have the vet sending us cases, we're not doing cases.
Right. Okay, good.
I think a lot of it as well is word of mouth. Like, we have a small community among neurologists, and being able to just talk about it. And even if, we have some of these visuals that we can hand out or email over to people as well, because sometimes people aren't willing to take the jump quite yet into, hey, I'm looking for a different type of magnet. I'm looking right now to not have what I have. They may not, of course, I can always send them your way, Sean, but sometimes they're not ready to take that step, and being able to send something over to them directly coming from a friend or a colleague, I think is a big thing. So having these available to us as well, because people may not be willing to take that step out there, but with a friend, they may want to get more information from them. So making these available to us to be able to forward or email to people as well, I think would be helpful too, because a lot of it is so based on what we all go through, and we talk to each other, man, my MRI has been down or whatever. And be like, no, mine's great. You want to look at some images? And they're like, oh man, your images look great. And being able to be like, hey, here's some information on it. And they may not be ready to take that step into talking to you yet, Sean, eventually getting there, but being able to send that information over from neurologist to neurologist, I think is helpful too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you ever point them to our website at all?
I do.
Okay.
So, but I think also just being able to send something over to them personally, if coming from another neurologist, would be something that they would like as well. So
yeah,
like a brochure, or
like a one-page detailer, like that has like highlights, like boom, 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 boom.
Correct. Yep.
That's a great idea. I never even thought about that.
They'll talk amongst each other, and being a younger neurologist, I send my images over to have other people take a peek sometimes. And they are like, man, your images look great, and being able to like, yeah, here's some information on my magnet just in case you're interested. So
okay. Yeah. Well, I know that I'm beginning to speak to your colleagues at Dogwood as an example. You know.
oh yeah, Jared, Papa Bear reached out to me. He's like, so we starting to look, and I told him to come on down and check it out. So
yeah.
And I wanted to say, pardon my French, it's about damn time. So
we'll talk offline. Awesome. All right. That's great feedback. Thank you for that. That's really, really helpful. Really helpful. Yeah. So I think we're reaching we've got the wrap up session here. Yeah. And this just real high level sort of summary sorts of stuff. And then we're going to go, Lynn's going to talk about next steps here. So Steve, you want to just kind of just summarize, just in general,
Yeah.
what you heard?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I really appreciate all the feedback, and these sort of meetings are so useful when you're developing and progressing a product. And some of the things we got from the feedback is actually interesting because it's all the things we're working on, because we did get some good feedback in San Diego. So I know the DICOM export per study was actually in the 7.2 release for scans, right? So sites that are not using that every site has 7.2. So if you want to use that facility where you send images at the end of each scan to your pack or to your workstation, then let us know and we can set it up for you. The thing about the reference lines, I know that's been mentioned today and previously, so I'd like to announce here that we're actually working on that right now. We had a meeting about it only a couple of days ago. That will be in the 8.0 release I mentioned earlier. So that's one of the things will definitely be in the release, and we've got some other things. So we've written down some things that came out of the discussion. And so yeah, it's really encouraging. So just want to say thank you to everyone, and don't just because these meetings happen every quarter, but it doesn't stop people giving feedback and sending messages to us of things they want to see in the product. So very, very, very good meeting.
Yeah, excellent. Steve, it's just a follow up. That version 8.0 do you have any sense of when we might see that? Is that sort of a next year initiative?
It should be this year. It should be this calendar year. It's we're just holding back. We've got a pre-release version of it, but we're just holding back based on some feedback from meetings like this. And the reference line was saying, which we just started to code into the system. So we went through a whole list of features we want to put into the software. So the first thing we had to do was get it to run under Windows 10. We worked with Jenny and the others in marketing to get the branding changed, so it's got different icons and things. But actually, what I'm very keen on is to push forward the functionality as well. So.
Brilliant. That actually brings up a thing that another question that I wanted to ask the group is, every organization has their own unique set of challenges. That's no surprise. One of the things that we're trying to do better is we're trying to communicate, do a better job of communicating when we do software updates and what they consist of. We recently tried to do that with the software version 7.2 that Steve mentioned. Does not to put anyone on the spot, but does anyone have any feedback or any insights into how well or not well it went? Do you feel like this latest round of communication met your expectations, or do you feel like there still might be some opportunity to improvement? Do you have suggestions? I'll just open the floor up to see if anyone had any feedback on that. Okay.
Okay, I guess we're okay.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, sounds like we're on the right track then. Good. So the final thing on the product in terms of when I introduced the VOS concept, there was, I'm going to go back and look at the recording, but there were several interesting comments about access, specifically after hours and maybe extended hours that we need to consider. And I thought I was a bit bullish on maybe the overall adoption rate that we would have, that we might receive feedback that you'd be more inclined to use it as your primary service. But what I heard is that there is no right answer. It's just all over the board. Every single practice is different, and there's going to be, every practice is going to have different needs and requirements. Certainly the common theme is, extended hours, middle of the night, weekends, those would certainly be interesting, an interesting service to offer. But in terms of the core, like, making it your regular everyday service, again, that's going to be all over the board. So we're just going to have to continue to learn and seek to understand as we explore this project for sure. So thank you for that feedback as well. On to Simon for his clinical wrap up.
Sorry, gave you crickets there for a second. Yeah, thank you for everyone's time today. Obviously, as Sean said, and the others, it's good to meet people and also to get your feedback. My role is obviously very new, and so I'm experiencing this for the first time. And hopefully, then as the role grows, I can have more of an assistance role for you guys if you need anything. So feel free to reach out at any time, and I may be in touch with you if things come up where I want to run by you for any reasons. But feel free to email me if you need anything, or if you'd like to chat about anything relating to this. And I look forward, hopefully, to meeting you in person at the next meeting.
Excellent.
Yeah. If not sooner. All right. So marketing, I think Miranda and Jenny, we got some great feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing for us is potentially building out some messaging around service, and for us that would be Q Care, right? What Lynn kind of mentioned earlier, that we packaged up all of those service offerings and our uptime guarantee to call it Q Care. So we might have to get creative and figure out what's the best way to kind of share that value with the market. And then one word that really stuck out to me too was the reliability of the system that Dr. Mercine kind of alluded to. Education around MRI versus CT, and really just how can we reach the market and educate people on why it's important to do an MRI in certain instances. So we'll see if we can come up with some creative way to kind of better educate the market from that aspect. And thank you for sharing some of your publications as well. I think we want to make sure that we're investing in areas where we know the right people are going to be seeing these messages that we just kind of talked through. So thank you. Appreciate the feedback.
Agreed.
Very good.
And you'd like to see more cats in the adverts.
More cats.
Jenny's on it.
More cats.
More cats.
All right, I get to close us out. So we've got some homework to do. So we're going to capture these meeting notes, form a plan of action, and communicate back to you. So Rachel will be sending you some more emails. So we appreciate you guys taking a look at those. If you could please fill out the feedback form that we send you shortly, and please be honest what we can do better. As you can tell, we're a community of always learning to improve and wanting to improve and serve you. So please let us know what we can do. Case studies, hopefully the little bribe will push or nudge a few of you to please send those in. They're very powerful educational tools, and we can't do it without obviously your examples and great feedback. Please stay engaged with us. And, we encourage you to engage with each other. I know, unfortunately, this meeting was virtual, so that networking piece didn't happen. But, we do encourage you to help each other out, and Cody, reach out to some of these, some of your colleagues here who have great experience with their systems if you need it as you start up your system. And then just, prepare for, and I hope that we can really get together in July and just keep raising the bar on these meetings so that they're more and more useful for you. I can tell you from a homework perspective, this was greatly useful, but we want to make sure it's also useful for you, that you're learning along the way. So
And I also wanted to chime in with, again, a special welcome to Dr. Fallon as well for joining us. We really appreciated having you, and we can't wait to start working with you there in Orland Park. So again, welcome. Thank you.
Welcome. And, you know, hopefully we'll be able to have this meeting in person in November. And the plan would be to have it in Savannah, Georgia. And so again, hopefully we can do that and we can see everyone face to face. And with that, I'll go ahead and open the floor up for any questions. Any final questions or comments? No? Okay. All right. Well, I realize it's Friday evening for some people. Steve, Annie, Holly, thank you for hanging in there with us. Hopefully you'll get a chance to enjoy your weekend. And for everyone else, enjoy your Friday afternoon. I can tell you here in South Carolina, it's about 80 degrees and sunny, so I need to get outside. So,